LoveLore Library. Chapter 361. Duan Rian's matter was not over yet. The next day, she received an invitation from Hiyao. Hiyao invited her to dinner, saying that it was an urgent matter. When she arrived, she saw Hiyao with Lan Xiaoni. The others were not there. In the cafe, Lan Xiaoni was wearing children's denim overalls and had braids. She was eating the cake in front of her obediently and cutely. There was no trace of the village in the photo. It seemed that Hiyao was also a master. Qiao Jin arrived and sat in front of her. "Are you in charge of taking care of the child now?" Hiyao coughed. "It can't be helped. Our group is made up of men, and Shuadai is still a child. How can we take care of her? I'm not very busy with work, so I can take care of her sometimes. Besides, you know her ability. I feel safer taking care of her." It made sense. Lan Xiaoni ate the cake and looked at Qiao Jin with a smile. "Hello." Qiao Jin also smiled. "Hello." Hiyao said, "The matter I'm looking for you is not troublesome, but it's a little troublesome." Qiao Jin. "Get to the point." Hiyao said awkwardly, "There are two main things. One is that an unknown high temperature was found in an apartment building in the capital last night. The spirit group's detectors found a very powerful spiritual wave there. We suspect that a registered spiritual reader has appeared. Fire-type spiritual readers are most afraid of demonized spiritual readers. I don't believe that a normal spiritual reader would attack ordinary residents in an apartment building." Qiao Jin thought of what happened last night and looked indifferent. "Oh. Fire-type spiritual reader. Isn't that quite normal?" "It's not normal if the spiritual wave is strong. The danger level of the other party is not comparable to the demonized spiritual readers we caught before." Hiyao was still a little nervous. The entire spirit group is nervous now. The most important thing is that the foreign spirit group is going to visit China at this time, and the leader is a troublesome person. The capital needs to be well protected, so I'm telling you this matter. If you encounter it, this demonized spiritual reader will be yours." "Oh. I see." Hiyao had good intentions. It just so happened that the spirit group couldn't solve this problem, so she would leave it to Qiao Jin. However, Qiao Jin clearly did not care about this. She was more interested in the spirit group that was going to visit China. A spirit group from overseas. Hiyao wasn't surprised that she was concerned about this. She quickly explained, "It's the spirit group overseas. However, they are different from our unified spirit group. They are divided into many factions. You know that in Europe, there are many countries with different religions. They are not as close to each other as we are. Therefore, there are many spirit group. This group that is visiting China is one of the most powerful ones, the He early family. That's right, they usually follow a family system. Those who are accepted into He early are all super strong spiritual readers. This time, the leader is a woman called Joanna." Qiao Jin's eyes lit up. "Wow, that sounds interesting. But this holy family," Hiyao's face was serious. "To be honest, they do things very casually. When they came here once, a spiritual reader died for unknown reasons. We all suspected that it was the holy family, but we didn't have any evidence. Everyone in their family is ridiculously strong. They don't seem to be from the same world as us. If it wasn't for the fact that we have an overwhelming advantage in numbers, just the holy family alone would be enough to fight us." Qiao Jin said, "I'm interested in the latter part. Go find that demonized spiritual reader. I'll help you take a look at this He holy. If he really attacked a spiritual reader, wouldn't this be a free tonic?" Hiyao was speechless. No, that was not what she meant. Chapter 362. He Yao's original intention was for Qiao Jin to deal with the matter of the demonized spiritualists, not the Hurley family. Even if there was a problem, the Hurley family could not afford to have a problem in China's territory. Otherwise, who knew what they would do? In this kind of conflict between spiritualists, the victims were usually ordinary people. He Yao looked a little troubled. Qiao Jin, although I don't know what your ability is, the spiritualists in this world are really complicated. Even if they are not demonized spiritualists, some people are not necessarily spiritualists who do good. You are just one person. Qiao Jin was just one person. She could not deal with a large group. If she acted too high profile, she would be dealt with sooner or later. Now, the spirit group was monitoring her, but she had shaken them off several times. If the spirit group could not do anything, He Yao really did not want to see any ugly situations happen. That's fine. You just have to make sure that I won't do anything to ordinary people, right? Qiao Jin smiled faintly and said, moreover, I'm only helping you with the investigation. If the Hurley family is so arrogant, wouldn't it be bad if they came to China and bullied us? She did not have any concept of national boundaries. However, this body was still a citizen of China after all. Sometimes, she still had to consider her own country's affairs. He Yao could not persuade her. She regretted saying this out loud. However, since Qiao Jin knew, it was not a big deal. It was not a secret that Joanna had brought the Hurley family to China. Lan Xiaoni whispered from the side, Godmother, can I eat ice cream? He Yao naturally rejected her. No, you can't eat ice cream. Qiao Jin supported her chin and looked at Lan Xiaoni. If a child calls you that, won't it affect your ability to find a boyfriend? What's wrong with that? He Yao smiled bitterly, I'm already so old. It's embarrassing for Xiaoni to call me sister. Besides, I'm not interested in dating for the time being. He Yao was not young for Qiao Jin. She was almost 30 years old. On the surface, she was a professional manager who did a good job and had a high salary. In addition, she was a spiritual reader with good benefits. For her, as long as she was willing, she could find a boyfriend at any time. She just didn't like it. If a spiritual reader didn't find a suitable spiritual reader partner and only found an ordinary person, it wouldn't be too good. There were many hidden dangers that they could not sense. Therefore, He Yao decided not to consider such a matter for the time being. When He Yao mentioned this, she was concerned about Qiao Jin. What about you? Now that you're 20 years old, you can find a boyfriend. You're so pretty, it's not a big deal for you to fall in love. You can experience the feeling of falling in love. Dating. Qiao Jin chewed on these 3 words as if she had heard something funny. This kind of thing is too redundant for me. To her, it was better to stay at home and study arrays than to fall in love with someone. Moreover, with her state of mind, she was not suitable for love. Everyone was the same in her eyes. There was no difference. Love was something she had only heard of. How magical was it? She suddenly thought of Su Rong and Ming Chu. It was probably magical, but it was not suitable for her. Chapter 363. He Yao knew that Qiao Jin had a strange temper. She was young, but she seemed to have seen a lot. There was always a kind of maturity that did not conform to ordinary people. This kind of girl's family situation was generally more complicated. Qiao Jin's family was also more complicated. Now that she was in the Mu family, she did not know how her life was. He Yao was letting her imagination run wild. After chatting with Qiao Jin for a while, she left with Lan Xiaoni. Every time He Yao saw her, she did not hide it from others. It seemed that she was not afraid of others knowing that she and Qiao Jin had a close relationship. The spirit group was monitoring her, so she could say that she was testing Qiao Jin. However, today, Xiao Jin had just left the place where he met He Yao when he felt an unusual aura. Someone was following her. The spirit group usually used their own abilities to monitor her, but it did not work on Xiao Jin at all. Modern surveillance would still be able to find traces of her. She would not deliberately erase her figure from the various surveillance videos. She seemed to be calm, but in fact, the aura nearby was under her control. The scattered array points flashed through her eyes one by one. As long as she wanted, she could trap the person who was following her in an instant. She did not move. She just waved her hand and stopped a car, ready to go back to the Mu family. The person who was following her drove at the same time. There was a faintly discernible tension in the air. There was a part of her journey home that was relatively remote because the Mu family lived in a wealthy district. Although it was remote, it was relatively quiet. However, the nearby surveillance cameras were in place. When the car passed by, Xiao Jin clearly felt that the nearby surveillance cameras were flashing strangely. Someone was affecting these things. It was probably to make it easier for them to not leave any traces. At the same time, in the eyes of the driver, a figure suddenly appeared on the bright road. He was not slow to begin with, so he was scared out of his wits. He subconsciously turned the steering wheel, and the whole car made a sharp turn and came to a sudden stop. He almost hit the guardrail on the side of the road. Why is there someone suddenly? The driver cursed angrily. However, when he looked again, he was immediately stunned. There was no one in front of him. Not even a car passed by. Damn, was he seeing things? The driver's eyes widened. He couldn't believe such a ridiculous thing. The car stopped by the side of the road. At the same time, a specially formed sharp blade came straight at the taxi like a thunderbolt. The sharp blade instantly cut through the rear windshield, and the entire windshield made a loud shattering sound. Just as it was about to pierce through the back of Xiao Jin's head, it stopped there. The driver turned his head and saw the frightening scene. He immediately screamed, "Why did the glass explode? What the hell is this?" Whoosh, 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 3 sharp blades were formed from the air and flew towards Xiao Jin with extreme speed. It was almost possible to hear the sound of them tearing through the air. They came from different directions, carrying with them an unwavering determination. It seemed like they wanted to kill Xiao Jin here. There was even a faint sonic boom in the air. However, just like before, the 3 transparent blades stopped a few centimeters away from Xiao Jin's face, unable to advance even half an inch. Even the driver saw this scene. He was stunned and could hardly describe the strange scene in front of him. After thinking for a while, he probably realized that he had encountered a legendary fantasy event. His eyes rolled back and he simply fainted. Chapter 364. As soon as he fainted, the accelerator of the car began to turn. Under the control of an inexplicable force, the entire car began to move spontaneously. It was extremely fast. First, it moved backward to create a large space, then it suddenly moved forward. Its goal was the guardrail at the edge. Beyond the guardrail was a hillside. At such a speed, it was inevitable that the car would be destroyed and the people would die. The fuel tank in the car was also making a strange rumbling sound, like the sound of boiling water. Xiao Jin sat in the back and did not even move her eyebrows. She only glanced at the driver who fainted from fright and then looked out of the car window. 0.01 seconds after the car slammed into the guardrail, it could not move forward anymore. The strange sound of the fuel tank in the car gradually subsided. Squeak, the tires were still moving forward with all their might. The speed had completely exceeded the limit of the car's endurance. However, the entire car was strangely motionless, as if it was being pressed down by someone, causing the person in the dark to be unable to exert any strength. I knew it. She's definitely not as simple as a sorcerer. How is that possible? The person in the dark gritted his teeth. 3 spiritualists attacked together, and they were all elites. Could it be that they could not kill her? At this moment, the door of the taxi opened with a click. The girl in jeans and flat shoes stepped out of the car. She was dressed very elegantly and casually, but this simple elegance could not hide the kind of immortal aura she emitted. Seeing her come out, the pupils of the person in the dark shrank. They were clearly very far away, but they saw the corner of the girl's lips curl up, and that clear voice that was like the sound of nature. That's great. If you don't attack, where would I get the spirit seed? That sentence immediately made the 3 spiritualists' hair stand on end. Spirit seed, the recently disappeared demonic spirit seed, was taken by her. Thinking of this, the 3 spiritualists realized that something was wrong and immediately wanted to retreat. However, in an instant, the wind and clouds rose, and the sky changed color. This change in color was only for them. In their eyes, the sky suddenly darkened as if the sky had turned dark. Streaks of red light suddenly appeared, like streaks of light and shadows of swords. With a chilling sound, they pierced through the sky and accurately bound their positions. The string was like a blade, flickering with a faint red light. It was very troublesome. They had never seen such a terrifying ability before. Their eyes widened. What is this? What ability does she have? Impossible, impossible. How did she do it? She had the ability to predict and attack. What is she? The 3 spiritual readers turned pale with fright. No matter how stupid they were, seeing such a scene, they knew that things were serious. Unfortunately, they were powerless to reverse the situation. Butterflies gradually appeared one after another. They danced gracefully and slowly flew towards the red line. They were clearly far away from Xiao Jin, but they couldn't move. They could only watch as the butterfly slowly flew over. When the flickering light touched them, it was as if they had been vaporized. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they disappeared from the world. The butterfly slowly disappeared, and peace was restored between heaven and earth. It was still sunny outside. The taxi was parked by the roadside. Xiao Jin just stood beside the car. She retracted her hand. The 3 spirit seeds had already vaporized. It wasn't only demonic spirit seeds that could be taken. It would be a waste not to take such a person who came knocking on her door. Chapter 365. Ordinary spiritualists, without demonization, could not be sure if they were a good person. Demonization was completely losing one's mind and being controlled by a demon, so it was not tolerated by heaven and earth. But some spiritualists, while maintaining the mind of a normal person, did not do normal things. She even knew who sent these 3 spiritualists. Feng family. Her lips curled up. Why were they so afraid of death? They knew there was something wrong with her and still sent people to kill her. Xiao Jin felt pity for the 3 spiritualists. It was not easy to cultivate them. The driver gradually woke up. He saw Xiao Jin and his eyes were a little blank. Miss, what happened? Xiao Jin, it's nothing. Drive a few minutes forward. I'm almost home. Oh, the driver seemed to know nothing. After hearing this, he naturally drove the car forward. He did not even ask why he fainted. When he arrived at the Mu family, Mu Xiangshan was watering the flowers with a kettle. There was also the sound of mahjong in the room, and a few women talking. When Mu Xiangshan saw Xiao Jin, his face immediately darkened. Is there anything wrong with your mother? Now she even learned to play mahjong. A group of women who don't know anything but mahjong. Useless. Xiao Jin, don't tell me. Tell Fei Fei. Mu Xiangshan, then she would cry and complain to Mu Jinming. At that time, it would be father and son blaming each other. Sure enough, he was ruthless. Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly and continued to water his flowers. Qiao Jin walked into the house. Qiao Fei and the others were playing mahjong in the hall. In his impression, Qiao Fei never played mahjong. Today, some friends probably came. After going in to take a look, he saw a few noble ladies. After all, Qiao Fei had only come into contact with such a group of noble ladies. The noble ladies were all young and had a good temperament, but Qiao Fei looked the youngest. This was not because she was gifted, but because Qiao Jin's array was very effective on her. Now, the more active she was, the better her complexion was. When she went in, she could even hear a lady playing cards while asking Qiao Fei what brand of condoms he was using recently. She was in such a good state that it made people envious. Qiao Fei smiled and was about to answer when they saw Qiao Jin return. Jin! Qiao Fei shouted happily when she saw Qiao Jin. The other noblewomen turned their heads. When they saw Qiao Jin, their eyes flashed with surprise. He had heard that Qiao Fei's adopted daughter was quite pretty. He had not expected to see her in person. With this temperament, how many rich girls couldn't compare to her? Qiao Jin was raised by Qiao Fei in a small city. Did the Mu family really raise people? Is this Qiao Jin? She's so beautiful. Sure enough, she was raised by her mother. Look at her beautiful face. She really takes after her mother. Qiao Fei was very happy to hear everyone's praise. She said to Qiao Jin, "Jin, these are my friends." Qiao Jin walked over and nodded slightly, "Hello." He said 3 simple words without any special expression. Then, he stood there in silence. He looked a little taciturn. He didn't like to talk and didn't greet others. He was beautiful, but he probably had a proud personality. 2 of the noblewomen looked at each other with tacit understanding. Only a woman in a late green cheongsam glanced at Qiao Jin with a thoughtful look. Chapter 366. Qiao Jin greeted them. Seeing that Qiao Fei had nothing to say, she went upstairs. Once she left, the others started to talk. "Qiao Fei, is your daughter a little talkative?" Qiao Fei only said, "A little." Sigh, "I don't know why, but she doesn't like to talk to people. She doesn't do it on purpose. She's just like that at home. Please don't mind her." "Of course not. I don't mind. She's really beautiful. Why don't I have your good fortune? Not only are my 3 sons so smart and handsome, but even my adopted daughter is so beautiful." Qiao Fei only smiled happily. They had never hidden the fact that Qiao Jin was adopted, so it was right for others to say that she was adopted. The woman in the late green cheongsam's eyes flickered slightly. She asked, "Qiao Fei, is your daughter 20 years old?" Qiao Fei said, "Yes." She smiled and said, 20 years old is not young. She can try to date. My son is coming back from abroad. Do you want to let Qiao Jin meet my son? You know that my son is studying at Cambridge. His grades are excellent, and he's not bad looking. Why don't we let them meet?" Her sudden mention of this topic made Qiao Fei's smile freeze for a moment. "I don't think that's a good idea. Jin is only 20 years old," she rejected quickly. When the 2 rich ladies heard this, they looked at the woman in the late green cheongsam suspiciously. Was she in such a hurry to find a wife for her son? Her son was so outstanding, but how could he not have a girlfriend? Qiao Jin was beautiful and had a good temperament. If it were them, they would also be tempted, but they had heard some rumors, but they were afraid that this woman did not know. If she knew, she would not have said such things. The woman in the lake green cheongsam was called Ma Ruyan. She was Xiao Fei's best friend. The two of them had known each other for many years. Ma Ruyan was able to marry her current husband because of Xiao Fei. At that time, Xiao Fei and Mu Jinming were together. It was also at this time that Ma Ruyan met the young talents in the same circle. She was quite capable and married one of them, who was her current husband. She did have a son, but in the 10 years that Xiao Fei and Mu Jinming were separated, Ma Ruyan occasionally contacted Xiao Fei, but it was not much help. Xiao Fei was magnanimous and even kept in touch with her after she came back. Now that she heard that Ma Ruyan wanted to date, Ma Ruyan was unhappy. There is nothing wrong. If they like her, it's good. If they like her, it's good. Let them meet. Just let them meet. The other two noblewomen thought to themselves in their hearts. Ma Ruyan had always curried favor with those in power and stepped on those in power. Only Xiao Fei was so stupid that she couldn't tell that her son was her own son. He was, after all, the young master of a wealthy family. Why would he call Xiao Fei's adopted daughter directly? Although she was Xiao Fei's daughter, she was just an adopted daughter. Would she really like her? She must have some ulterior motive. Of course, they would not say that out loud. They just watched the show happily. One of them said, "Ruyan, your son is so outstanding. How come he still doesn't have a girlfriend?" Ma Ruyan immediately said, "He said he doesn't have one. Am I not anxious?" "Of course, Xiao Fei, I don't mean anything. I just want the two of them to meet." Chapter 367. It'll be great if the two of them hit it off. Even if they don't, it's just a meeting. Xiao Fei hesitated when she heard Ma Ruyan's words. She was embarrassed to reject her best friend, but she had never asked Xiao Jin. What if Xiao Jin got angry if she agreed? It would be hard to coax her if she got angry. Xiao Fei shook her head. "Ruyan, I think the child is still too young. I'm not in a hurry, and neither is she. Besides, my children all have their own ideas. I'll ask her about this matter. Whether she agrees or not, that's her business." Ma Ruyan knew that Xiao Fei would say that and smiled. "Of course. I still have a photo of my son. Why don't we let her take a look at it before making a decision?" She was very confident in her son's looks. As long as he showed it to young girls who liked to look at handsome faces, they would definitely fall in love. She heard that Xiao Fei's daughter had just come to the capital not long ago. Other than her 3 brothers, she probably hadn't interacted with other young masters. Of course, she could only blame herself for going on a trip some time ago. She wasn't very clear about what was going on in the country. No one told her especially. After all, she didn't have any close friends. She took out her son's photo from her WeChat. Xiao Fei and the other 2 went over to take a look. He was indeed handsome. The boy in the photo was handsome. He smiled confidently at the camera and was dressed in branded clothes. It was obvious that he was the popular type. "Wow, Ruyan's son is so big. He's so handsome. Yes, we haven't seen him for a long time. He's getting more and more handsome." Ma Ruyan smiled in satisfaction at the 2 women's compliments. Xiao Fei also praised after seeing it. Not bad. But so what? There were a few handsome men in her family. Naturally, she felt that he was ordinary. Moreover, she felt that Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were together every day. It wouldn't be easy for them to hit it off. Xiao Fei asked Ma Ruyan to send the photo to herself. Then, she sent it to Xiao Jin. As this matter concerned her, Xiao Jin, who was in the room, heard it clearly. She was amused and speechless. She saw the photo sent by Xiao Fei and asked her how she felt. Xiao Jin replied coldly. Jin today, I don't see her. I don't feel anything. Cruel and heartless. Xiao Fei was a little. Marine's smile was a little forced, you. Xiao Fei was a little unhappy. That's right. I already said that I would respect the child's opinion. If Jean doesn't want to go, what can I do? She spoke in a soft voice. Marian didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should say it or not. The other two people could tell that there was something wrong with Marian's eagerness. They were secretly happy. They would have more gossip to share when they went back. Since Xiao Jin didn't agree, this casual mention could only end in failure. At this moment, Song Yanqing texted Xiao Jin to relieve his boredom after work. Xiao Jin told Song Yanqing about what happened just now. Song Yanqing, he hadn't seen her for a day. How did things change so quickly? The handsome man in the office building couldn't help but frown. Chapter 368. Song Yanqing could only say, after all, he is an excellent boy. It is reasonable for Auntie to have these considerations. Powerful little friend, how is he excellent? Meiyu Heavenly Palace is in decline. He is eager for sex and pretends to be fake. His academic problems are most likely faked. He also has a romantic debt. He will have an accident because of a woman. Song Yanqing, he looked at this paragraph, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised, overflowing with a chuckle. He was thinking too much. Children always looked at problems differently from him. He was really thinking too much. He thought that the hint he gave everyone was clear enough. Before there was progress, at least others would not be so tactless to say anything to the Mu family. Xiao Jin was just an adopted daughter, which also led many people to hesitate even if they thought she was excellent. However, it was also the best protection. At least not so many people would be enthusiastic about her. He typed a line of words, 20 years old, it is actually okay to fall in love. It was just that before he finished typing, Xiao Jin's faint eyes flashed in his heart. He saw the lack of desire in those eyes. He sighed slightly, deleted this sentence, and only typed, have a good rest. Powerful little friend, I met a spiritual reader who wanted to kill me this afternoon. Seeing this sentence, Song Yanqing got up and walked to the glass window. He called Xiao Jin with a slightly gloomy expression, what happened? Xiao Jin was not surprised to see him calling. She told what happened just now, and she also said lightly, it was a test, and they also underestimated me. I took the spiritual seeds of the three of them, and I didn't let them send the news back. The Feng family doesn't dare to guess if I did it for the time being. If she was the one who did it, killing 3 spiritual readers by herself and making them disappear without a trace was definitely not something that could be done by an ordinary person. The Feng family would be on tenterhooks. If they were bold, the ancestor would directly take action, or he would report to the people behind him. But this idea was really too scary. Xiao Jin was too young. They would think that there was someone protecting Xiao Jin behind her. But no matter what kind of guess it was not good for them. It was only a matter of time before the person behind the scenes showed up, unless he wanted to see the Feng family really be finished. Song Yanqing's voice was cold, is it the Feng family? Xiao Jin said with certainty, it's the Feng family. The person who assassinated her would have karma, and the karma would be traced back to the Feng family. The Feng family was probably not going to be peaceful again, although they had not been peaceful during this period of time. But now, things were even more chaotic. Song Yanqing knew, and Xiao Jin knew that it was the Feng family, but they had no evidence. They could only use the method of a spiritual reader master to solve it. He exhaled softly. I understand. On the surface, it was not good to fall out with them, but in the dark, they had to secretly make a move to make the Feng family suffer a bit. In terms of spiritual sense, there was Xiao Jin. He was very good at business. Now that the Feng family was in chaos, what was the harm in making them more chaotic? Xiao Jin suddenly said another sentence: if possible, let your aunt divorce the person from the Feng family. If she doesn't want to, let that person leave as soon as possible. Her karma was too strong. In the end, the Feng family had caused so many deaths. They had done such a vicious thing like borrowing luck. When the time came, the revenge would be doubled. Even if they were innocent, they might be implicated. After all, they were in the Feng family, and they were blessed by the Feng family. After Song Yanqing heard it, it was rare for him to be silent. If ordinary people said so, it would be fine, but it was Xiao Jin who said it. Song Yanqing said, "I will tell her." Chapter 369. It was not a good idea to ask others to divorce. To put it bluntly, it was destroying other people's marriage. To put it bluntly, his aunt had to explain. Song Yanqing couldn't tell her about Xiao Jin's matter. He didn't want Xiao Jin to be in any danger. However, he had his own way to tell his aunt. After hanging up the phone, Song Yanqing began to think about this matter. On the Feng family side, it was not very calm. The old man with the birdcage was originally strolling on the street. When he received a call, he sat down on the side of the road with a gloomy face. The bird in the cage felt the terrible atmosphere around it at this time, and it didn't dare to make a sound. The old ancestor looked at the white sky with a strange smile at the corner of his mouth. He had done so many things and maintained the Feng family for so many years. Now this big family should prosper and multiply, and no one could stop it. He wanted to meet this girl in person. If it didn't work, he could only inform the other side. The other side wouldn't just watch the foundation of the arrangement be broken step by step. The old ancestor closed his eyes. Before this, he absolutely didn't believe in karma. He had the strength to be able to isolate such a thing. It was not karma. Now that strange things were happening in the Feng family one after another, he had to take it seriously. There were 4 juniors in the Feng family who had an accident. There were also people who kept having accidents in the business field. It couldn't be suppressed even if he wanted to. Even outsiders were wondering if the Feng family's luck had come to an end. Why did it fall step by step like it was cursed? The more glorious it was before, the more embarrassing it was now. And all of this was, since he saved the junior of the Feng family. What did she do? What did she do? Thinking of this, the old ancestor called the people in the family with a gloomy face. When Fingfei he received a call from the people in the family, she was a little frightened. She hadn't been there for a while. Every time she went, she was inexplicably afraid of that strange place. Now that she was suddenly called over, she felt that it was not a good thing. Sixth uncle, in the luxurious car, she leaned on sixth uncle's shoulder, and her body trembled slightly. What does the old ancestor need to see me for? I don't know about that. The man she called sixth uncle was sitting beside her at this time, but his hands were on her buttocks, kneading from time to time. It could be imagined that the two of them had an improper relationship. He blew into Fingfei's ear, "Don't worry, sixth uncle is here. For my sake, great ancestor will not do anything to you." Fingfei he held back her disgust. Seeing that the hand was getting more and more impudent, she couldn't help but feel sad. If it wasn't for their own lives, who would be willing to ruin themselves like this? Feng family. The Feng family was a man-eating demon's den. For an illegitimate daughter like her, if she didn't have any ability, she would be reduced to a plaything for this group of middlemen. When Fingfei he was in trouble, if Zhu didn't want to investigate the cause of the matter, he wouldn't have asked the great ancestor to save her. This sixth uncle was a very favored branch of the great ancestor's side. His status in the Feng family was very high, but it was also disgusting. The Feng family was used to the things they did. It was the kind that outsiders absolutely hated. He took a fancy to Feng Fei, and in exchange, the great ancestor didn't stop him. Thinking of this disgusting fact, Feng Fei really wanted to kill them sometimes, but she didn't have the ability. She closed her eyes and pretended that she didn't feel anything. Chapter 370. When they arrived, there was only a dark practice room. She knelt on the ground. She was a proud girl in school, but here, she was just a lowly person. Sixth uncle stood beside her and spoke to the void for her. Great ancestor, what do you want to tell Feihe this time? As soon as he finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared and slapped him in the face. Get out of here first. This voice contained a huge murderous aura. It was obvious that he didn't put sixth uncle in his eyes. Sixth uncle was so scared that his whole body trembled. There was no longer a proud look on his face when he spoke for Feng Fei. He rolled and crawled out. He was all-powerful in the business world outside, but he was just a piece of trash here. When Feng Fei saw sixth uncle being slapped, she realized that something was wrong. She knelt on the ground in fear and didn't dare to raise her head. She could only feel a cold figure in the room. What on earth did you do? What else have you not told me about the matter back then? When Feng Fei heard this, her whole body froze. She did have things that she hadn't told him, such as the matter of her harming Qiao Jin. But at that time, Qiao Jin was just an unloved adopted daughter. Moreover, she felt that she didn't have the ability, so she didn't say this small matter. She had offended a lot of people. So much so that she could only vaguely say that she was targeting Qiao Jin. But she didn't say it in detail. She didn't expect to be caught and investigated now. She had a premonition that the great ancestor might want to know about this matter. Seeing her frightened face, the voice became more irritable. Are you forcing me to use the soul-searching array? If I use it, you will be a fool for the rest of your life. Think about it carefully. Feng Fei was so scared that she burst into tears. No, great ancestor, please don't. I'll say it, I'll say it. I did tell you almost everything back then. I don't dare to hide anything from you. I just some things, maybe it's been too long, I can't remember them clearly. That Qiao Jin. Yes, Qiao Jin. I didn't like her at that time, so I found a woman to deal with her. I got close to her, led her astray, and tricked her into taking drugs. That night, I was even going to find someone to take a video of her, but I didn't expect her to run away, so I didn't succeed. As for the rest, I really don't know anything else. There was really nothing left. I don't know what went wrong either. No, impossible. The great ancestor affirmed. Feng Fei could even hear his footsteps walking around. If that's the case, even if she awakens as a psychic because of anger, she can't have such a strong ability. What's the problem? Is there someone protecting her behind her back? No. The grand ancestor's murmur shocked Feng Fei. She vaguely knew about spiritualists, but she had never thought that Qiao Jin would become a spiritualist. Is a spiritual reader a person with special abilities like the great ancestor? Then why is it Qiao Jin? Why can't it be me? Thinking of this, she was crazily jealous of Qiao Jin. There's something wrong with your memory. In that case, don't blame me for being impolite. The great ancestor's cold words came. Feng Fei only felt a chill in her heart. She had a feeling of complete regret, but nothing could be done. A sharp pain came from the top of her head. She closed her eyes. After that, she couldn't remember anything. Chapter 371. Did something happen to Fingfei He? What happened again? Early in the morning, such an unexpected topic appeared at the Mu family's dining table. As for the old man, he had already disappeared without a trace after breakfast. He most likely went for a walk. Musichu spoke first, and Musilian asked, what happened to her? Xiao Fei was also very curious. What happened again? Mu Jinming's expression was a little serious. She went crazy. Crazy? Xiao Fei was a little surprised. How did she go crazy all of a sudden? Xiao Jin, who was eating his breakfast slowly, was focused on eating and did not care about these things. Musilian was also shocked. He sat up straight and looked at his father. How did she go crazy? When did she go crazy? Why didn't I know? Xiao Fei, you dance every day. What do you know? Musilian, this is too much. You didn't know at home either. Mu Jinming sighed. She was found on the street last night. It is said that she tore her clothes and went crazy. The passers-by found her and called the police. Her mother took her back and sent her abroad overnight. I'm afraid she won't come back for the rest of her life. After such a thing happened, even Fingfei He's mother did not have the face to let her come back. A family like theirs could be shameless, but when such a crazy thing happened, how could they tolerate it and not let others talk about it? Musilian was a little confused. How did she go crazy just like that? Wasn't she fine a while ago? There were no signs at all. Or is she usually mentally ill? Anyway, I think so. Xiao Fei was also a little regretful. It's a pity that she's a girl. How did she go crazy at such a young age? Musilian looked at Xiao Jin. Look at Xiao Jin. What's so strange about going crazy at such a young age? Didn't she go crazy for a while too? Fortunately, she did not run to the street and tear her clothes. Musichu picked up a sandwich and stuffed Musilian's mouth. Shut up. Musilian angrily took a bite of the sandwich. Brother, aren't you glad now? Back then, Fingfei He's parents came to our house to force us to get married. Now, she's gone crazy, and you don't have to worry anymore. Musichu just glanced at him and didn't say anything. Xiao Jin focused on finishing his breakfast. When he wiped his mouth with a tissue, he said, she's just going abroad. How do you know that she won't come back after she's cured? I'm already crazy. How is that possible? After causing such a huge commotion, even if I recovered, I wouldn't have the face to come back. Xiao Jin smiled mysteriously. That's why your skin isn't thick enough. Musilian, what was the meaning of this? Mu Jinming frowned and pondered. Xiao Jin, what do you mean by that? Xiao Jin, nothing, I'm just talking nonsense. Musilian shouted, see, I told you, she's definitely not normal. I suggest you send her to the hospital for another checkup. She's so weird every day. Xiao Fei, shut up, how can you talk about your sister like that? Are you even human? Musichu, he's not human. Musilian. Fine, you guys attack me together. Just you wait. In this family, it's either her or me. It's either me or her, Mu Jinming. If you don't apologize to your sister, you won't have any pocket money this year. Xiao Jin, apologize. Musilian. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Xiao Jin nodded. I don't want to forgive you for the time being. With that, he left. Mu Jinming also wiped the corner of his mouth. There's no pocket money this month. Musilian, she's really not human. Chapter 372. The news that Fingfei He suddenly went crazy still caused a stir in the upper-class society for a while. Her parents also left Huaxia and probably would not return to Huaxia in their lifetime. If they were thick-skinned. It was said that Feng Fei he was even photographed in disheveled clothes at that time. If it were not suppressed quickly, it would probably become another embarrassing thing for the Feng family. Recently, Qiao Jin's fortune-telling shop was doing well. Although the price was expensive, there were many fortune-tellers. However, most of them were asking about marriage or small things. If Qiao Jin was accurate, others were willing to spend the money. Gradually, she became more and more famous, and the number of fans on Weibo had increased to 1 million. However, she never revealed her information, so no one knew whether she was a man or a woman. After a rough calculation, the shop was doing well, and she had earned tens of thousands. These tens of thousands were really nothing to the Mu family, but the premise was that Qiao Jin never took the Mu family's money. Basically, she had never touched the pocket money that Qiao Fei gave her. When she took out the tens of thousands, Qiao Jin was in a good mood. She thought that Song Yanqing had treated her to several meals, and this time it was her turn to treat him. Before she sent a message to Song Yanqing, a special business came to the shop. The other party directly chose the most expensive set meal, which was 99999. Looking for a fortune teller on the internet at this price, he was probably introduced by an acquaintance. The other party only gave a name and birthday. Obviously, he was familiar with Qiao Jin's rules. Qiao Jin looked at the name and birthday, was a little surprised, and then directly replied. Today, no need. She won't live long. The other party was not in a hurry to reply. After a long time, he slowly sent a sentence, "Is there no chance to save her?" This fortune teller was a little strange. His fate line was very strange. Qiao Jin saw a mess through the array. She probably needed to see the real person to confirm some information. Today, basically no. Anonymous buyer, thank you. Today, you don't have to be so expensive. I'll refund you the money. Just give me a normal price. Anonymous buyer, it's okay. This money is nothing. Although the result was not very good. Rich people were quite capricious. Qiao Jin just shook her head. She was only doing her job as a fortune teller. There was no need for her to look at the other party. It was true that he didn't have long to live. He was quite polite. She took out her phone and sent a message to Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing made an appointment with her at night. The restaurant this time was the Japanese restaurant she had eaten at last time. She could afford the price of a meal, but she did not expect to meet Fan Jin and Phoenix Qianen. There were private rooms in the Japanese restaurant, but when the waiter took Qiao Jin to the private room, they passed by a private room and the door was not closed. She saw Fan Jin and Phoenix Grace sitting inside. Phoenix Grace also saw Qiao Jin. It only took a glance to notice Qiao Jin. Phoenix Qianen saw her but did not greet her. Qiao Jin obviously didn't need to greet him. He just turned his head and let the waiter lead him to the private room. Fan Jin, on the other hand, also saw Qiao Jin and was stunned for a moment. "Hey," Phoenix Grace smiled and looked at her. "Sister, what's wrong?" Fan Jin said, "I think I saw that girl in the coffee shop last time." Because she had a very unique temperament, she had a deep impression. She had not forgotten until now. "Is that so?" Phoenix Qianen just smiled lightly. Sister's memory is really good. Chapter 373. It's because she's too beautiful. It's unforgettable. Fan Jin sighed. At this moment, 2 more people passed by outside. Led by the waiter, Fan Jin turned around and her smile instantly froze. The person in her memory appeared again. She really couldn't describe how she felt in her heart. Although she had been traveling and relaxing during this period of time, her mood had improved a lot. Only now did she know that as long as she saw this person again, her mood would become very, very bad. The other party was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. He had an imposing appearance and the elite aura of a mature man. A pair of silver-white thin-rimmed glasses rested on the bridge of his nose. He had an ascetic and calm aura. He wasn't alone. There was a beautiful woman in a limited edition dress holding his hand. She was noble, elegant, and generous. She looked very compatible with him. Perhaps Fan Jin's existence was very abrupt. When the other party turned around and saw her, his expression froze for a moment. This absent-mindedness was only for a moment. He quickly looked away as if nothing had happened and walked forward with the woman. Feng Qianan noticed Fan Jin's ugly expression. He also saw the man in a suit passing by. His eyes immediately lowered slightly. There was some doubt in his voice. "Sister." Fan Jin was brought back to her senses by his call. She was only a little stunned. "Yes," Feng Qianan smiled. "Do you know the man just now?" Fan Jin subconsciously denied. "No, I don't know him." She denied it too quickly, but it was easy to hear the problem. Her expression was very gloomy now. It was visible to the naked eye. How stupid would Feng Qianan be to believe that they didn't know each other? Of course, he wouldn't ask. He only thought of the man just now. His eyes were slightly gloomy, but he quickly covered it up. Qiao Jin was sitting in the private room next to them. Although it was completely soundproof, her spiritual perception was special. She could hear the movements next door if she wanted to. In addition, the door of the private room was not completely closed. She also saw Jiang Qinji. Of course, she didn't know Jiang Qinji, but Fan Jin had asked her to read her fortune. She could recognize this person when she saw him. Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect to meet in this shop. It was really fate. Qiao Jin arrived early. By the time Song Yanqing arrived, Phoenix Qian had already closed the door to the private room. Song Yanqing did not know that his cousin was also here. When he arrived at the private room, he saw Qiao Jin sitting there and smiled gently. "I'm a little late for the meeting. If you're hungry, you can eat first." "I'm fine." Qiao Jin looked at her phone for a while. She passed the time quite quickly. When Song Yanqing arrived, the chef came in to prepare the dishes for the two of them on the spot. "Did you make money by treating me to a meal? I've never heard of you working part-time. How did you earn so much money?" Song Yanqing was just curious. Qiao Jin didn't hide it from her. "I opened a fortune-telling shop online and made some money." She even showed Song Yanqing her fortune-telling shop. Chef, never would he have thought that such a beautiful young lady would actually become a fortune-teller and deceive others. Nowadays, the things on the internet that could be used for fortune-telling were definitely fake. This was the opinion of a chef who worked in a luxurious Japanese restaurant. With outsiders around, Song Yanqing didn't ask much. She just smiled. "You really know how to think of a way." Qiao Jin, as she answered, Song Yanqing suddenly frowned and his face paled visibly. Qiao Jin immediately asked, "What's wrong with you?" Song Yanqing shook her head. "Nothing," she just suddenly felt her heart palpitate and was extremely uncomfortable. Chapter 374. Qiao Jin noticed that there was a black gas floating on Song Yanqing's forehead. He was with her now, so there shouldn't be any accidents. There was still a death aura on his body because the disaster hadn't passed yet. His body was still weak, but he was much better than before. Why was there a fluctuation in his death aura? Qiao Jin directly reached out and touched Song Yanqing's forehead. It was warm and a little hot. She said, "You have a fever." Song Yanqing said, "I often have this. I'll be fine after a while." His body wasn't very good. This kind of low fever from time to time was just a small symptom. Xiao Jin said, "Something's not right." She sensed an unusual aura. That aura came from outside the door. She stood up and walked over to open the door, just in time to see two people appear in the private room. Two men. The two men were also very tall and looked somewhat similar. They should be twins and looked handsome. But one of them was wearing a mask and covered himself tightly. He coughed from time to time and looked more fragile than Song Yanqing. The person next to him whispered, "I said, if you want to eat, you can ask the chef to cook at home." The voice was clear and sounded very young. The other person's voice was a little weak. "I just wanted to come out and walk around." After he said this, the man who spoke earlier frowned. A trace of heartache and guilt flashed across his face. In the end, it was not easy to say. They noticed that Xiao Jin suddenly opened the door and were a little surprised. The man wearing a mask subconsciously avoided Xiao Jin's face. He even tried hard to look at the ground and didn't dare to raise his head. Through the edge of his nose that wasn't covered tightly, Xiao Jin saw a certain black mark on the skin of his face. It didn't look like normal skin. Song Yanqing was just about to ask Xiao Jin why he opened the door when he heard the noise. He stood up and came to the door. When he saw the person, he was a little surprised. Su Nan. Su Xiu. Xiao Jin thought that people were really casual with their names these days. But when she heard the name, she still raised her eyebrows. The two boys were surprised to see Song Yanqing. They stood there hesitantly. Brother Yanqing. Light Mouth was quite familiar with him. He probably had a good relationship with Song Yanqing. After being surprised, Song Yanqing's expression returned to normal. He nodded slightly. "Coming out to eat?" One of the boys who wasn't wearing a mask nodded. "Yes, Brother Yanqing. I didn't expect you to be here." As he spoke, he looked at Xiao Jin, who was beside Song Yanqing, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. She probably didn't expect Song Yanqing to have a girl by his side. It seemed that the rumors were true. Xiao Jin stood there quietly without taking the initiative to speak. Song Yanqing introduced them to her. "This is Su Nan and Su Xiu." He then turned to the two brothers and said, "This is Xiao Jin." He did not introduce his background, only his name. The two brothers nodded. But one of them still had his head down, as if he didn't want to look at others. When Song Yanqing saw him, a trace of deep thought flashed through his eyes. "Then you guys eat slowly." "Okay." The one who answered was still the boy without a mask. It wasn't until Song Yanqing brought Xiao Jin into the private room and closed the door that Xiao Jin asked with a smile, "Were those twins just now?" Song Yanqing nodded. He seemed to be hesitating. Before he could speak, Xiao Jin suddenly said, "The death aura on his body is really similar to yours. No wonder you feel uncomfortable." Song Yanqing looked at her with a little surprise. "You noticed?" Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. "Of course." Chapter 375. The following topic was obviously not suitable for others to hear, so Song Yanqing asked the chef to leave. The chef only made 2 simple dishes for them and left the rest to him in the kitchen. Although the chef was a little surprised, he was very wise not to disturb them. After Xiao Jin sat down, he said, "Some things are really unpredictable. When I came out in the morning, a very generous customer came to my fortune-telling spot and gave me Su Xiu's information." Su Xiu is the boy with the mask just now, right? The business she received in the morning was about Su Xiu. When she read his fate, she saw that he would not live long. The fortune-teller should be his brother, Su Nan. Looking at Song Yanqing's expression, it was obvious that he knew something. Sure enough, when Qiao Jin said this, Song Yanqing said, "What a coincidence." Although he said this, his expression was a little serious. Su Xiao had an accident when he was young and his body has some problems. Even if you don't know, I was planning to ask you after a while. I didn't feel it before, but after I became a spirit master, I could feel many things that I couldn't before. I saw a special aura on Su Xiao's body. Someone put a formation on him. You can basically see it as a curse. Qiao Jin directly told him about Su Xiao's situation. Evil spirit array, he won't live long. Song Yanqing paused. Won't live long. Qiao Jin nodded. Yes, this formation is very vicious. If it wasn't a fatal hatred, it's hard to imagine that it would be used on a child. The formation on his body has been maintained for more than 10 years. Song Yanqing nodded and sighed. What's an evil spirit array? Qiao Jin thought for a moment and said, I told you about the formation points before. In fact, every formation master can see different formation points. Sorcerers also had powerful abilities, such as spatial teleportation and even time reversal. Sorcerers did have these abilities as well. It's just that wizards have a single but powerful ability. A spell formation master is a hybrid version of a magus. They can have multiple abilities at the same time, but these abilities are also released through the use of spell formations. Some array masters can only see ordinary array points in their entire lives. For example, the most common natural array points are the natural abilities of magi. Elements like metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, lightning, and rain can be used on you to change your life chart. This includes curse array points, time array points, and space array points. There are very few array masters who can find these array points. These array points basically only exist in places like mausoleums or mass graves, or places that are difficult for humans to reach. The evil ghost formation is a type of curse formation. The person who cast the curse will use their life as the price to seal the evil ghost on the person in the formation, causing the person's face to fester and become as ugly as the evil ghost. From the day the formation was set up, the person will not live for more than 20 years. The evil part of this formation is not the death, but the continuous torture for 20 years, as well as the psychological pressure on the person. Basically, the person in the formation will not be able to last for more than 20 years. The price is also very high, basically using their own life as the price. That's why I say, how much hatred does someone have for him to use such a formation on him? Song Yanqing listened to Qiao Jin's explanation and his expression became more serious. Su Xiao was only 3 years old. Who could he have offended? Chapter 376. How could a 3-year-old child be hated to this extent? If it was the fault of someone in the clan, then why was it Su Xiao? Qiao Jin took a sip of tea. I'm not too sure either. The evil spirit array is still very difficult to break. Even if it was her, it would be very difficult for her to see the cause and effect of someone else's life. Song Yanqing grasped the main point. Is there a way to break it? Qiao Jin nodded. We just need to find the grave of the person who placed the curse. The source of the array point can only exist on the person who placed the curse. If the person who placed the curse is dead, then it will be on his corpse. We have to find the grave. Song Yanqing suddenly sighed. Is there a price to pay to save him? Qiao Jin said, of course, but it also depends on the situation. I can't see any sins on his body, which means that the person who placed the curse on him is not protected by karma. As long as we can find the grave, it's not impossible to save him. Of course, since Song Yanqing had said this, Xiao Jin understood. She raised her eyebrows. You want me to save him? Song Yanqing thought for a while. His cold voice was calm. If it's bad for you, I won't trouble you for no reason. At this point, Xiao Jin also understood that if he wanted to cause trouble for Xiao Jin, he would not ask Xiao Jin for help. There were some things that had to be prioritized. He knew that Xiao Jin greatly avoided karma, so he naturally would not let trouble find Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin said, "It's not impossible, saving someone who was not protected by karma would not be troublesome. Even if the person who placed the curse hates him so much, it would probably be difficult to find his grave. It was possible that he had died in the wilderness without a complete corpse, making it impossible for people to break the array. This meant that he hated the other party." Song Yanqing said, "Is it possible that the person who placed this array is still alive?" Xiao Jin said, "No, the other party is already dead." "I can see that, but I can't find where he died." Song Yanqing nodded and did not ask any more questions. He would deal with the following matters. Xiao Jin said that saving him was the limit. She could not take the initiative to find Su Xiu and tell him that he could still be saved. Song Yanqing would tell the other party. Whether he believed it or not, whether he wanted to save him or not, that was their business. After the meal, Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin, they just happened to meet Jiang Qinji and his fiancée. When the other party saw Song Yanqing, he was slightly surprised. "President Song." Song Yanqing saw the other party, and a faint smile appeared between his eyebrows. "Mr. Ji Nuo." It seemed that Jiang Qinji did not expect to meet Song Yanqing here. Although the other party was much younger than him, his status could not be underestimated. Even though Jiang Qinji was now in a high position, he took the initiative to reach out his hand and said politely, "I didn't expect Mr. Song to also have a meal here." Last time, the cooperation was interrupted halfway by an accident, which was a little regrettable. "I wonder when you have time to discuss it with me again." Song Yanqing still had a smile on his lips, but if one looked carefully, one would see a faint alienation in his eyes. "Mr. Ji Nuo, you are too polite. I am now on a private trip, and the work will be arranged by my secretary. Just follow the plan. If there is a chance for cooperation, this time will not be short." Jiang Qinji immediately realized that Song Yanqing did not like to talk about business in this kind of occasion. He immediately nodded. "Sorry for being rude." His eyes swept to Xiao Jin, but his eyes were much calmer. But when his fiancée beside him saw Song Yanqing, she obviously showed a stunned expression. Chapter 377. Jiang Qinji and Song Yanqing knew each other. Xiao Jin didn't expect it, but the capital was only so big. It didn't seem surprising that there was cooperation in the business field. It also proved how big the Song family's business was. Jiang Qinji was the CEO of a multinational consortium. When he saw Song Yanqing, he also politely wanted to talk about cooperation. "Hello, Mr. Song." The beautiful fiancée beside him also stretched out her hand with a perfect smile on her lips. Her posture was confident and generous. At first glance, it was obvious that she was a noble young lady raised in a rich environment. Song Yanqing glanced at her outstretched hand and didn't move. He smiled and said, "Sorry, I don't shake hands with people because of my health." "Miss Qin, I'm really sorry." The woman who was called Miss Qin didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, she was flattered. "So Mr. Song knows me." Song Yanqing said in an official tone, "Mr. Ji Nuo's fiancée is Miss Qin, the heir of the Fran Group. This is known to all." If Mr. Ji Nuo is holding someone else, Miss Qin glanced at Jiang Qinji and revealed a shy smile. Of course, he wouldn't dare. Jiang Qinji just smiled faintly. Qiao Jin, who was beside Song Yanqing, was so quiet that it was as if he didn't exist. Of course, she was too lazy to listen when she saw Song Yanqing talking to business people. Song Yanqing was about to find an excuse to leave and the door next to him opened again. A clear and bright voice with a hint of sweetness said, "Sister, a new car has just come out recently. I like it very much. Can you accompany me to see if you want to buy?" Before he finished speaking, Feng Qianan saw Song Yanqing. His smile suddenly faded a little. The reason why he hid it was because he saw Jiang Qinji opposite Song Yanqing. Fan Jin and Feng Qianan walked out and saw the people in the corridor. They were stunned again. If it was in the past, her emotions would definitely fluctuate. But now, her years of acting experience forced her to calm down. She was also distracted by Song Yanqing and Qiao Jin. Good-looking people could really ease one's mind. When Fan Jin saw Song Yanqing, she was really surprised. She had never seen such a good-looking Asian man in her life. It was truly an indescribable beauty. What was even rarer was that the other party had a noble aura. With one look, one could tell that he was a young master raised by a wealthy family. There was a kind of grace and elegance that ordinary people could not possess. She was simply a peerless beauty. When he stood next to Qiao Jin, they were simply a pair of good-looking beauties. Fan Jin liked to compare people with celebrities in the entertainment industry. If these two were to debut, many people would go crazy. She could not help but sigh. "Cousin, you're here too." Fortunately, she was distracted and only reacted when she heard Feng Qianan speak, "Cousin." She was a little surprised. She never thought that such a beautiful and noble man in front of her was Feng Qianan's cousin. "Yes, my cousin." Phoenix Grace smiled and greeted Qiao Jin, "Hi, Miss Qiao." Of course, Qiao Jin nodded politely and coldly. Fan Jin was even more surprised. "You know her." She had mentioned this girl twice in front of Feng Qianan, but she had never heard Feng Qianan say that he knew Qiao Jin. Feng Qianan looked at Fan Jin with an innocent expression. "You didn't ask." "Miss Qiao is my cousin's good friend. In fact, I've only seen her twice." While they were talking, Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing both noticed that Jiang Qinji's face stiffened when he looked at Fan Jin. Chapter 378. Song Yanqing immediately sensed something. Jiang Chen knew Fan Jin, and Fan Jin was the girl his cousin, Feng Qianan, was pursuing. He knew what was going on, but he didn't say anything. He only smiled at Feng Qianan. "I didn't expect you to be here." Miss Qin looked at Feng Qianan and greeted him politely. "Is this Mr. Song's cousin?" Song Yanqing only responded out of social etiquette, "Yes." There was no need to introduce him. Feng Qianan didn't have any contact with them. Feng Qianan ignored her and introduced Fan Jin with a smile. "Cousin, Miss Qiao, this is my friend, Fan Jin." He said they were friends, but he usually called her sister. Qiao Jin nodded again. How annoying. She didn't like social etiquette. Although she had a good impression of Fan Jin, she didn't want to talk in front of so many people. When Song Yanqing spoke, her voice was a bit lazy. "I want to go back." Song Yanqing didn't finish speaking to Feng Qianan and immediately changed the topic. "Then let's go back." His expression was gentle and his voice carried a trace of gentle doting. Others could see the difference. Feng Qianan. Ha ha. His cousin wasn't the same as before. Fan Jin was surprised by the relationship between Song Yanqing and Qiao Jin. Feng Qianan had only said that she was a friend, not a girlfriend. If she wasn't a girlfriend, why did it feel strange? Song Yanqing smiled apologetically at everyone and left with Qiao Jin. the atmosphere between the remaining two groups was strange. Feng Qianan didn't even have the mood to pay attention to them. As soon as Song Yanqing left, he left with Fan Jin without hesitation. He didn't say anything to Jiang Chen and the others. Miss Qin's smile froze for a moment. Mr. Song's cousin doesn't seem very polite. She was slightly dissatisfied. Jiang Chenji said indifferently, "He's young and I've never seen you before. He doesn't know how to deal with people, so it's normal for him to be rude. There are many young masters like him in the capital." Miss Qin was a little curious. "I think I know the woman beside him. Is she a female celebrity?" Jiang Chenji's heart skipped a beat, and his tone was very cold. "I don't know him." Miss Qin replied with an "oh," and then sneered, "These female stars are all like this. They like to cling on to these rich young masters and think that they can marry into a rich family, but most of these young masters are just playing with them. I've seen a lot of this. There are many women outside who won't let go of my brother. Kino, I don't care about others, but if you dare to mess around outside, I won't let you off. Don't forget that you relied on me to get to where you are today. When we get married, the control of China will be yours. You have to treat me well, I don't want to see anything bad happen. You will guarantee it, right?" She leaned on Jiang Chenji's shoulder with a sweet expression, but there was no smile in her eyes. Of course, she didn't notice that as she spoke, Jiang Chenji's expression became colder and colder. After she finished speaking, he responded coldly. "Okay, I won't." He watched Fan Jin and Feng Qianan leave. He thought to himself, she has been in the circle for so many years, but she still can't keep her heart. After all, she is young and has a high status. Did the current her also know how to climb up the ladder? He lowered his eyes, and with a coldness that others couldn't detect, he left with his fiancée. Chapter 379. Song Yanqing sent Xiao Jin home and told him about the dormitory. He would send someone to investigate. If anything happened, he would inform Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin agreed. When she got home, she saw Xiao Fei rushing over in a hurry. "Something big has happened." Xiao Jin said calmly, Fei, you can call me if you need anything. You don't have to wait for me to come back." Xiao Fei was stunned for a moment before she reacted. Her expression wasn't good. "It's too sudden. Mom didn't expect it. It's really something big." Muzillian suddenly jumped out of the house. "Mom asked me to tell her. I'll give her a bolt out of the blue." Xiao Fei, before she could stop her son, Mu Qi quickly said, "Something happened at the Ji family. Ji Fanjing and his mother got into a car accident. It wasn't a big problem, but for some reason, the medical staff found out that his mother wasn't related to him by blood. In other words, the fact that Ji Fanjing wasn't her biological son was exposed. Grandfather Ji's family is in a mess now." Xiao Jin, wow. She really didn't expect it. Her intuition told her that the Ji family was going to make trouble for her. In the end, it happened much earlier than she expected. Xiao Fei screamed, "Can't you be more reserved? Can't you consider whether your sister can take it or not?" Muzillian was confused. What does the Ji family's accident have to do with her? Look at her expression. It's as if she's watching the gossip. Xiao Fei was very anxious. She grabbed Xiao Jin's hand and said helplessly, it's over. Jin, now that they know that Ji Fanjing isn't her biological son, what if she tells them about you? Are you going to be brought back by the Ji family? What if they mistreat you because of Ji Fanjing? What if she hates you because of this? As she spoke, her eyes turned red. She was about to cry. Xiao Jin, Muzillian, at some point, Xiao Fei's imagination had broken through the sky. Muzillion was stunned. Mom, aren't you thinking too much? Now, only the fact that Ji Fanjing is not her biological son has been exposed. However, Ji Fanjing is indeed Uncle Qiao Jin's biological son. There is no need for them to find Qiao Jin, right? Xiao Fei said, what do you know? Ji Fanjing isn't her biological son. If Ji Qiue gets angry, the Ji family doesn't like her to begin with. She doesn't feel safe. What if she really reveals Qiao Jin? Muzillion, oh, that's possible. If Ji Qiue wanted to divorce her because of this, she might tell him about Qiao Jin to protect herself. He might even be able to go back to the Ji family to fight for some property. If she wanted to be wary of Qiao Jin, it was under the condition that Ji Fanjing wasn't exposed. Now that Ji Fanjing was exposed, it didn't seem like there was any use for her to be wary of Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin's voice was clear. It's okay. I won't go back. Xiao Fei's imagination was still going wild. They will sue you and force you to go back. You're so beautiful now. They might force you to go back for a marriage alliance. They want you to marry someone who doesn't like you and has an affair. Muzillion, his mother's imagination was amazing. For a moment, he really wanted to see such a thing happen. Qiao Jin's expression was serious. Watch less TV dramas and novels in the future. A normal person's brain had become abnormal. Xiao Fei, sob sob sob. Chapter 380. At night, the Mu family had another family meeting. This time, Mu Qiji, who was overseas and could only watch via video call, was among the participants. The news of the Ji family's accident spread very quickly. This was the most melodramatic thing in the entire upper-class society. The car accident at the Ji family actually exposed the fact that Ji Fanjing's current mother, Chai Yueli, was not his biological mother. However, after checking their bloodline, Ji Fanjing was indeed Ji Qiue's biological son. Then who was Ji Fanjing's mother? Why did it become Chai Yueli? Everyone was only concerned about this now. They did not even think about the fact that Chai Yueli had a biological daughter. Chai Yueli had relied on this son to climb up the ranks. Now that this matter was out, wasn't it the best gossip of the year? Mu Jinming felt that the recent events were really melodramatic. Mu Xiangshan sat at the side and sighed. The scene I imagined really happened. It actually made people look forward to it. Xiao Fei cried. What about Qiao Jin? Mu Jinming comforted her, let's not worry about Qiao Jin for now. Chai Yueli might not reveal Qiao Jin. What she should be anxious about now is how to explain the matter of Ji Fanjing. Mu Qiji listened to the whole story through the video call and nodded. Even if the truth comes out, there's no need for her to expose Qiao Jin. Even if it's about the fight for the Ji family's assets, Qiao Jin isn't highly regarded now, not to mention Qiao Jin. Mu Xiangshan said leisurely, people are always afraid of what if. The more you say that it won't happen, the more likely it will. If she wants to keep her position and not get a divorce, there's a high chance that she will reveal Qiao Jin's matter. Of course, if Ji Qiue is determined to divorce her because of his son, there's no need to say it. Now, it's up to Ji Qiue to see how sincere he is to her. Muzillion. I agree with Grandpa. Mu Xiangshan was a little shocked. There was actually a traitor in this family who agreed with him. Mu Jinming also nodded. Actually, what Dad said makes sense. If Ji Qiue cared about his daughter, he might not divorce Chai Yueli. Then, Qiao Jin would be exposed. Xiao Fei's worries were groundless. Then, if she doesn't reveal that she's divorced, will she use it to threaten Qiao Jin? Ask Xiao Jin for money or something. Musichu covered his forehead. Mom, have you ever thought about what she's going to use to threaten Xiao Jin? Was he going to reveal the truth? That won't do any harm to Xiao Jin. At most, the Ji family will know that they have a daughter outside. Perhaps grandfather Ji will really bring Xiao Jin back. Xiao Fei was stunned. In that case, wouldn't it be good for Xiao Jin to go back? Mu Jinming said, that's why your discussion doesn't count. The important thing is to see what Xiao Jin thinks. He looked at Xiao Jin with a serious expression. Xiao Jin, uncle is asking you seriously. If this matter is really made public and the Ji family wants you to go back, will you choose to go back? Of course, even if you go back, Xiao Fei is still your mother. You're still a part of the Mu family. Xiao Fei was about to cry. That won't do. Xiao Jin can't go back. The surname Ji sounds so terrible. Wu, Muzilian and the others suddenly thought of what would happen if Xiao Jin changed his surname. Muzilian immediately laughed very unkindly. Xiao Jin glanced at him coldly and said to Xiao Fei, he won't go back or change his surname. You've watched too many dramas. Chapter 381. The main reason was that her name was really Xiao Jin in the past. It was impossible for her to change her surname. She was just Xiao Jin. Xiao Fei heaved a sigh of relief when he heard her affirmation. Mu Xiangshan clicked his tongue. I don't know why you're so anxious. Even if the Ji family wants to acknowledge Xiao Jin, they'll at most build a relationship with us. What can they do if Xiao Jin doesn't go back? Mu Qiji said firmly, yes, there's no need to panic. Chai Yueli is the one who's panicking the most right now. Mom, you don't have to worry so much. Xiao Fei said softly, I'm just upset. Back then, she abandoned Xiao Jin for her son and refused to acknowledge him. If she betrays Xiao Jin just because she doesn't want to get a divorce, I'll look down on her. He was throwing a tantrum, but he still carefully glanced at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin's expression was still calm, as if they were discussing someone else's matter and had nothing to do with her. Everyone fell silent. Actually, they were thinking the same thing. If Chai Yueli really did that, it would be unfair to Xiao Jin. However, there was no harm in acknowledging the Ji family. If they stopped them, it would also be unfair to Xiao Jin. After a while, Xiao Jin said, it's actually not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Even if the truth comes out, I won't return to the Ji family. I'll be a part of the Mu family for the rest of my life. Jinming, you don't have to worry. Mu Jinming was speechless. So, he should at least call him uncle. Mu Jinming could only sigh and accept Xiao Jin's refusal to greet him. Mu Xiangshan asked a tricky question. How will you address Ji Chiyue and Chai Yueli in the future? Xiao Jin said, I'll call them by their names. Mu Xiangshan was satisfied. Very good. The treatment is very fair. Everyone was speechless. Why are you so hung up on this? In the end, the meeting did not come to a conclusion. Anyway, it was up to Xiao Jin whether he wanted to admit it or not. That was Xiao Jin's problem. When Xiao Jin was resting in his room at night, he replied to Su Nan, who had sent him a message during the day. Today, there might still be hope. Tell me about your family. Did you offend anyone in your family? On the other side, Su Nan didn't close the backstage. He was a little surprised when he saw the reply. In fact, he was desperate. The master they had found said that Su Xiu did not have long to live. He was at a loss. After so many years, he still couldn't find out what was wrong with Su Xiu. Now, he even knew that he wouldn't live for long. He saw a fortune teller on the internet who was said to be very accurate. In fact, he was just trying his best to get the fortune teller to predict Su Xiu's fate. The fortune teller was a true fortune teller. The fortune teller was the same as what the master at home said. Su Xiu didn't have long to live. The Su clan didn't know what was going on with Su Xiu. They didn't even understand why he was being treated so unfairly. Now that he suddenly saw the master's reply, Su Nan was surprised and pleasantly surprised. Could it be that the master saw his fate and felt that there was a turning point? However, he frowned when he saw the master's question. He actually didn't know how to answer. If he answered too much, it would reveal his privacy. However, in his memory, his parents were peaceful people. They didn't offend anyone. Did the master know what was wrong with Su Xiu? Anonymous buyer, do you know what the problem is? Chapter 382. Today, yes, but if you don't tell me clearly, it will be difficult for me to diagnose and determine whether he can be saved or not. Anonymous buyer, hello, it's not that I'm worried about revealing my privacy, but according to your question, there are only my parents and my brothers in my family. We have very few relatives. My parents are peaceful and have never offended anyone, so it's difficult to answer this question. Today, it seems that you don't know. Su Nan was stunned. Why did the fortune teller sound so sure that his family had offended someone? But who did they offend? How did they do it? They had never thought that Su Xiu had offended anyone. They had gone to countless doctors, but all of them said that it was a medical problem and they were helpless. It looked like he had been poisoned when he was young, but they couldn't treat him. It wasn't until later that they found some acquaintances who introduced them to a master. They didn't believe it at first, but the master said that there was no way to save Su Xiu, which made them feel even more desperate. Su Nan didn't know what he could do. Su Xiu was his twin brother. They were fine when they were young, but everything changed when they were 3 years old. The master didn't send any more messages. Su Nan hesitated for a while and asked his parents, Dad, Mom, I want to ask if our family has offended anyone. His parents were also at a loss. Who could we have offended? They had been gentle people all their lives. The whole capital knew that. Even Su Nan's father was a good person. How could they have offended anyone? Su Nan's mother was puzzled. Why do you ask? Su Nan thought for a while and told them, I found a fortune teller on the internet. He said that it's possible that our family has offended someone. Why did you find a fortune teller on the internet? Those are all liars. Su Nan's mother's face changed. She didn't believe the things on the internet at all. The fortune teller we find is guaranteed. If a fortune teller on the internet like you is so accurate, why would you be a fortune teller on the internet? Do you know how much a fortune teller costs? How much did you spend on fortune telling on the internet? Su Nan said, 100,000. It's not a small amount, but that's his most expensive price. This fortune teller usually only costs 1,000. Su Nan's mother said, You've been cheated. How can it be so cheap? Su Nan, he felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Father Su also frowned. Su Nan, I know you want to help your brother, but we have already found many ways to help him. You should spend more time with your brother. When he said this, his voice was choked with grief. He was only in his 40s, and a portion of his hair had already turned white from worrying about his youngest son's affairs. This only served to reflect his sorrow. As long as there was a way, who would let their son become like this? While they were talking, a slender figure wearing a mask was standing at the top of the stairs. He looked at them quietly, a pair of beautiful eyes under his long eyelashes. The corners of his mouth twitched, but he didn't know what to say. When a person was about to die, they would have a feeling. He had already sensed that his days were numbered. He saw his brother's frustration and helplessness. He also knew that his family had already thought of many ways for him. They had even thought of such a charlatan method. However, there was no cure for his illness. There was no one to blame but fate. Chapter 383. Anonymous buyer, I'm sorry, master. There is really no problem. Xiao Jin was not surprised to see his answer. If they really couldn't find the reason, there was nothing they could do. If they took the initiative to cast the tactical matrix to find the person who put the curse on the Su Xiu, they could do it, but they would be involved in the karma of life and death. No matter what the reason was, this kind of tactical matrix made by hatred itself carried malice, and it could not be removed by others. The reason why she took the initiative to ask was because of Song Yanqing. If they couldn't find it, there was nothing they could do. She fell asleep, but suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. She opened her eyes and sat up from the bed. She felt something special and went to Song Yanqing. There was something dangerous. Song Yanqing was not ordinary to her now. Of course, she went straight to the Song family. It was just that it was inconvenient to do it in the middle of the night. She cast a tactical matrix and directly moved from the Mu family to the Song family's yard. She used a magic spirit seed. Ordinary. She went directly to the balcony of the Song family. As soon as she looked up, she saw Song Yanqing standing in the dark, wearing a black silk pajamas, looking down the stage with clear eyes. Suddenly seeing Xiao Jin appear, he was not surprised at all. He just smiled gently and said, "Why are you here?" Xiao Jin did not answer, and his eyes fell on the swimming pool. There was a body in the swimming pool, turned over and facing down. It was obvious that the body was cold. Ordinary people would be scared out of their wits, but the Song family was quiet and did not move at all. Xiao Jin looked up and asked him, "Where is Yi?" Song Yanqing replied with a smile, "I put him to sleep." After saying this, he waved to Xiao Jin with a gentle look. "Come up. It's cold outside." Xiao Jin was only wearing a thin nightdress. Although it was summer, the night was a little cold. Xiao Jin frowned. Yes, he was now a spiritual speaker. He could make Yi not find out about this. The corpse in the swimming pool was not an ordinary person. It was an array master. Although he looked ordinary, there were no signs of him struggling before he died. It was obvious that he had died silently. Generally, array masters would not be so stupid as to directly enter someone else's territory to set up an array. They could completely control the array from afar. So, Song Yanqing directly used his ability to force the other party to come over. His ability was improving faster than she had imagined. She only asked him, "How did you do it?" Song Yanqing, "If you don't come up, I'm going down." Xiao Jin continued, "How did you do it?" Song Yanqing seemed a little puzzled. "What's wrong?" "I'm a spiritualist of speech. Is it strange that I can do this?" Xiao Jin was silent for a moment. "No, I just feel that you're more decisive in killing people than I thought." Song Yanqing's face was hidden in the night. The faint light of the Song family's house reflected his perfect face. It was so beautiful that even his eyes were shining. His voice was like the moonlight, with a cold smile. "He wanted to kill me." Xiao Jin nodded. "I don't blame you. I'm just afraid that you'll be in danger." Song Yanqing's expression eased a lot. He said, "Come up." Xiao Jin said, "We should dispose of the corpse. Don't let others find out. This array master's identity is not simple. He's from abroad." Song Yanqing, "I know." His voice was still cold, mixed with a trace of gentleness for Xiao Jin. As his voice fell, Qiao Jin saw the corpse in the swimming pool slowly melting. It was really melting, as if it had turned into a pool of water and finally merged into the pool. The pool water was clear, as if nothing had happened. Qiao Jin blinked. Go to another pool. Song Yanqing chuckled. Chapter 384. Come up here. He still said the same thing calmly. Qiao Jin said, No, I want to go back. Since he was not in danger, there was no point for her to stay here. Song Yanqing's expression froze for a moment. In the night, his expression could not be seen clearly. Hidden in the darkness, the surroundings were a little cold. Wait a minute. After he said this, he turned around and went into the room. When he came down again, Qiao Jin saw him holding a nightgown. It was a long black one. It looked like the one he was wearing. He took it and put it on Qiao Jin. This is new. I haven't worn it before. He looked down at her. Don't you want to know where this person came from? Qiao Jin let him put the nightgown on her. She looked at the clear swimming pool and said, I know where he came from. I told you just now. After a pause, she said, It's someone from abroad. She guessed that the people from the He early family had probably arrived, although she did not know why their first target was to attack Song Yanqing. Could it be that the exchange of fate was related to the He early family? Song Yanqing tied the belt of the nightgown for her. Seeing that she did not object and was unusually obedient, he felt a little satisfied. It's Joanna's people. His words were shocking. Qiao Jin raised her eyebrows. You know the He early family. Song Yanqing stepped back and looked at her. His expression was very calm. I didn't know before, but now I know. The He early family has a partnership with us. I've seen Joanna a few times. Now I know what kind of existence they are. Qiao Jin suddenly understood. She was not surprised. The He early family was not only a family of spiritual readers. On the surface, they were also prominent. It was not strange that they knew Song Yanqing. Qiao Jin was thinking. Why did this formation master attack you? Song Yanqing said softly, I don't know. We can talk inside. Qiao Jin hesitated for a moment but did not refuse. She could learn some things about the Hurley family from Song Yanqing, as well as the suspicious points just now. She just didn't want to ask. Now that Song Yanqing wanted to say it, she was all ears. She actually had a question that she didn't ask. When she came, she felt a bit of the Rakshasa realm's aura, as if the devil had just left. Clearly, the Rakshasa realm was still pestering Song Yanqing. In the room, Qiao Jin sat down. Song Yanqing poured her a glass of water. Tong was sleeping soundly. He would only wake up when Song Yanqing was willing. Qiao Jin held a glass of water while Song Yanqing sat opposite her and told her what had happened. In the middle of the night, Song Yanqing felt danger, so he woke up from his sleep. In fact, he did not do anything. He just materialized this feeling of danger and used the spiritual reader's ability to find the person behind the danger. It was an Formation Master. An Formation Master who wanted to kill him for some unknown reason. The other party used an ordinary Formation Master, but it could cause great harm to Song Yanqing. When Qiao Jin heard this, she asked a question. How did he come here? Song Yanqing smiled and said, I wanted him to appear, and he appeared. Well, it was as if he sensed my presence. He appeared in the courtyard directly. He looked more surprised than me. Of course, he would be more surprised than Song Yanqing. A spiritual reader's ability was to materialize anything and turn the impossible into the possible. According to Qiao Jin's thoughts, this Formation Master should have been influenced by Song Yanqing and forced to come here. Chapter 385. However, according to what Song Yanqing said, the other party had suddenly appeared. In other words, Song Yanqing's ability had begun to cross space. It was very terrifying for a person who had just awakened his ability to forcefully pull someone from afar over. Qiao Jin did not have a deep understanding of spirit speakers. She only vaguely remembered that one person was a spirit speaker. She was just a little surprised by Song Yanqing's ability's rapid improvement. An ordinary array master could already cross space. Then, in time, the person who changed his fate might appear automatically. Qiao Jin thought about it and asked him, "Have you ever used your ability to think about the person who changed your fate?" Song Yanqing nodded. "I have. He is now stronger than me, so I feel a resistance when I use my ability." Since there was resistance, he wouldn't continue. Qiao Jin just looked at him quietly. In such a bright light, his expression was still so gentle, like a celestial being. Song Yanqing saw Qiao Jin's strange gaze and said with a smile, "Is there a problem? Or is it that my ability is growing too fast?" "No." Qiao Jin looked away. She just felt a little strange. This strangeness came from Song Yanqing himself, but she didn't have any bad feelings about Song Yanqing. She also didn't feel that Song Yanqing had any ill intentions towards her, so she couldn't be bothered. Song Yanqing got up. "Are you going back tonight?" Qiao Jin nodded. "I have to go back. If Fei Fei finds out tomorrow, how am I going to explain to her that I appeared at your house in the middle of the night?" This didn't mean that there was a problem, but the Song family's door was tightly shut and there were bodyguards guarding it. There were also surveillance cameras around. How was he going to explain Qiao Jin's sudden appearance in the middle of the night? It would arouse the Song family's suspicion and uneasiness. Song Yanqing's eyes flashed. "How are you going back?" "Qiao Jin, go back the way you came." After saying this, she smiled at Song Yanqing, which made Song Yanqing stunned for a moment. "I'll go back first. Have a good rest." With that, Qiao Jin's figure disappeared. Song Yanqing stood in the same place. The lights were still bright, but it seemed that with Qiao Jin's disappearance, the night had gradually darkened. After a long while, he let out a low laugh. In the dark night, it was quiet and cold. When Qiao Jin got home, he realized that he was still wearing Song Yanqing's nightgown. I'll just send it back to him another day." She took it down and put it into the wardrobe. In the end, she heard someone talking about her from next door. The Ji family called. "They're really calling." The flustered voice belonged to Qiao Fei. Mu Jinming's voice was low. "Don't panic. It might not necessarily be about Qiao Jin." After saying that, he picked up the phone. After listening to a few words, he was a little silent. Then he said, "Have you investigated this matter clearly? You can't just believe whatever she says. My wife adopted Qiao Jin from an orphanage. This matter is too ridiculous." The matter was exposed. Qiao Jin knew that the Ji family's troublesome matter would still come true. Since it was troublesome, it meant that there was something else going on in the Ji family. It's not very good. The child is resting now. It's not good to wake her up in the middle of the night. Okay. In that case, we'll talk about it during the day. Of course, Uncle Ji is my father's good brother. I won't let him down. However, these are all adult children after all. We have to listen to their opinions. Chapter 386. After hanging up, Mu Jinming sighed. Chai Yueli told us about Qiao Jin. Dad guessed right. Ji Chiyue wanted to divorce her, and she told us about Qiao Jin's existence to protect herself. Xiao Fei fiercely pinched Mu Zhenming's arm and immediately burst into tears. I knew that Chai Yueli was a vicious woman. Mu Zhenming rubbed his forehead. You don't have to think about such nonsense. Right now, it's Uncle Ji who wants to know if she's the granddaughter of the Ji family. He might bring Qiao Jin for verification tomorrow. This matter still depends on whether Qiao Jin agrees or not. Even if the Ji family acknowledges her, it doesn't matter. It matters a lot. I don't think Chai Yueli is worthy of being her mother. Mu Zhenming, we'll talk about it when she wakes up. After that, Mu Zhenming coaxed Xiao Fei with a few words and managed to coax Xiao Fei to stop. However, Qiao Jin didn't rest. Tomorrow, the Ji family would probably come and ask Qiao Jin to do a paternity test. So be it. She didn't care. It was just that she couldn't return to the Ji family. If the Ji family really caused her trouble, if necessary, she could be ruthless, but she couldn't think too badly of them. At least, Ji Pingan looked like a peaceful old man. But, to be honest, Qiao Jin felt a little annoyed with her cheap parents. The next day, when they woke up early in the morning, it was an extremely extraordinary day for the Mu family. Ji Pingan had brought someone to their door. This time, it was him and Ji Chiyue. Unlike Ji Pingan's excitement, Ji Chiyue was sizing up Qiao Jin. He found it unbelievable. Qiao Jin didn't look like them at all. Why was Chai Yueli so sure that Qiao Jin was her biological daughter? Mu Xiangshan woke up early in the morning to read the gossip. He took a sip of hot tea and immediately let out a long sigh. Ah, Pingan, you're already so old, but you still believe in such silly things. Your daughter-in-law said that Qiao Jin is her daughter, so it's true. Qiao Jin was adopted by Qiao Fei from the orphanage. We even have an adoption certificate. Musichu had already come down from upstairs. When he saw the situation in the living room, he only observed the situation and didn't speak. Musilian played games too late last night and was sleeping like a pig. No one woke him up, and he had already missed the opportunity to broadcast. Mu Zhenming and Qiao Fei were silent. Qiao Jin didn't come down, and Ji Ping and sat on the sofa. His heart was very excited. His expression was a little awkward and he felt embarrassed. Xiang Shan, I know you might not believe it. When I heard her say it last night, I didn't dare to believe it either. But she said it with certainty. She said that Qiao Jin was her daughter. Mu Xiangshan narrowed his eyes. Then what's with this son? Didn't she say that he was your biological grandson? How did he fall into her hands? Ji Pingan looked even more embarrassed. However, no one spread this news. Ji Chiyue hesitated. Uncle Mu Xiangshan smiled. I underestimated Chiyue. He has a lot of romantic debts outside. He doesn't even know about his own son. How can he get someone to replace him? He was complaining that he didn't even know that he had a child. Chai Yueli even took him away and treated him as her biological son. Instead, he lost his daughter. Ji Chiyue's face turned red and he was too embarrassed to raise his head. After all, it was indeed embarrassing for such a thing to happen at this time. Chapter 387. Xiang Shan, don't worry about him. I've already said that he's a good-for-nothing. When Ji Pingan knew the truth, he couldn't wait to beat Ji Chiyue with a few sticks. Thinking that they were all old now, it would be too ugly to beat. He didn't even know who gave birth to his son. He didn't even know where his daughter was. As a father, no one could be so muddle-headed. Ji Pingan looked at Xiao Fei and Mu Zhenming. I didn't come here for anything else. I just want to take Qiao Jin to do a paternity test to get rid of this thought. I know it may be hard for you to accept, but if Qiao Jin is really my biological granddaughter, you can't bear to let her not know who her biological parents are for the rest of her life, right? Mu Jinming and Qiao Fei, she knew it very early, even earlier than you. The two looked at each other, and Mu Jinming spoke first. If it's true, of course we won't stop this kind of thing. We also understand how you feel, Uncle Ji. However, the child is so old. Shouldn't we respect the child's opinion? These things should be told to Qiao Jin, not to us. Ji Pingan quickly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. Where is Qiao Jin? Qiao Fei whispered, she should still be sleeping. Ji Pingan actually liked Qiao Jin. The child was good-looking and had an extraordinary temperament. After chatting with her a few times, he liked the girl very much. Unexpectedly, some things were really destined. In fact, apart from Chai Yueli, if Qiao Jin was really his biological granddaughter, it would be a good thing. What he regretted was that he didn't have a granddaughter, and there were many boys in the Ji family. As soon as Qiao Fei finished speaking, Qiao Jin came downstairs. She was not surprised to see this scene in the living room, but when Ji Chiyue saw her, he stood up excitedly. Qiao Jin, was she really his daughter? Ji Chiyue looked left and right. Although she didn't look like it, he was extremely satisfied with her. It was said that there were some bad rumors before, and she was close to the child of the Song family. She was simply the perfect daughter. Qiao Jin only nodded. Ji Pingan looked at her, his eyes filled with excitement. Jin, Mu Xiangshan said leisurely, they said that you are the granddaughter of the Ji family and want to take you for a paternity test. Since everyone already knew, there was no need to pretend. Of course, in front of the Ji family, he still had to make a few announcements. Ji Pingan didn't expect Mu Xiangshan to be so simple and crude. He was stunned for a moment. Qiao Jin, oh, sure. Ji Pingan and Ji Chiyue. Wasn't he a little too calm? They didn't even see a trace of emotion on Qiao Jin's face. Just like how the weather was today and how it was. Shouldn't they be shocked? His biological family had appeared. Qiao Fei mumbled, are you really going? Qiao Jin, we'll have to face them sooner or later. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone, didn't this mean that it didn't matter who the biological child was as long as it was tested? Wasn't that too rude? Qiao Fei took a deep breath and stood up. I'll go with you. They just hoped that it was fake and that they might have seen wrongly. In this case, Qiao Jin was just his good daughter. The biological mother might have been forced to abandon the child, not like Chai Yueli who swapped children for glory and wealth. Chapter 388. Ji Pingan was prepared to explain to Qiao Jin countless times, but he didn't expect Qiao Jin to be so simple and crude. Of course, the Mu family was also very straightforward. Qiao Fei and Musichu accompanied Qiao Jin and the two of them to the hospital for a paternity test. Because it was too straightforward, Ji Chiyue didn't know where to put his hands and feet when he saw them in the car. It was a blessing that his daughter, who had been living outside, was adopted by the Mu family. At least it wouldn't be too embarrassing when she came back. However, she looked cold and indifferent. She didn't even look at him, who might be her biological father, which made Ji Chiyue a little dissatisfied. He was her father, after all. How could she not even greet him? Unfortunately, he didn't dare to say it out loud. Ji Pingan was at a loss. At his age, he didn't know what to say in the face of such a thing. Along the way, he tried to talk to Qiao Jin and asked about Qiao Jin's past. Of course, most of the answers were actually from Qiao Fei. After all, Qiao Fei was the one who raised Qiao Jin. As his mother, she definitely knew what was going on. This matter was too sudden, and the G family didn't spread it. Others had only been paying attention to the fact that Ji Fan wasn't Chai Yueli's biological father, but they didn't expect an even bigger bomb. When they were about to reach the hospital, Ji Chiyue received a call. He answered cautiously. Ji Pingan got angry when he saw him like this. Who is it? Ji Chiyue hurriedly said, It's Sikai. I don't know what happened, but Big Brother knows, about Xiao Jin. Ji Pingan frowned. Didn't I tell you not to spread it before it's confirmed? Ji Chiyue looked sad. I don't know who spread it either. It was most likely Chai Yueli. Xiao Fei frowned slightly. It was fine when he hadn't seen her, but now that he had, Xiao Fei felt that Xiao Jin's biological parents were irresponsible at all. A junior called, and he was so timid, he was worse than her. Ji Chiyue added, Sky said he'll come to the hospital later. Ji Pingan frowned even more. He's here. What was he doing here? This has nothing to do with him. That being said, no one knew what Ji Sikai was thinking. Even if he wanted to come, no one could stop him. Who in the Ji clan could stop him? They were probably here to watch the show. The hospital where they carried out the blood test happened to pick the Song family's business. It was probably because everything here was the most advanced, and they had connections, so it saved them a lot of trouble. It would only take an hour for the report to come out. There was no need to waste too much time. Of course, this couldn't avoid a problem. Song Yanqing knew. First of all, regardless of whether the hospital was shameless or not, how could they let their young master know about this matter? Anyway, after the test was done, while waiting for the results, Xiao Jin received a call from Song Yanqing. She went outside to answer the call. Her voice was very calm. Hello. Song Yanqing's voice sounded a little calm. Why would the Ji family do a DNA test with you? Are you Ji Chiyue's daughter? Xiao Jin hadn't told Song Yanqing about this. Xiao Jin, oh. I think so. Song Yanqing was silent for a while. After a while, he said, Did you know in advance? Why didn't you mention it to me? His voice was very gentle, and he didn't mean to blame her. He probably didn't want to be too abrupt. Xiao Jin said lazily, It's just a small matter. There's no need to tell you. Chapter 389. She really didn't think that it was a big deal. It was as if she didn't care who her parents were at all. Song Yanqing heard the slight laziness in her voice. Like a kitten, it suddenly grabbed his heart. He raised his eyebrows and sighed helplessly. Only you don't care about these things. Don't you care about your biological parents? Xiao Jin, I don't care. They don't look outstanding. Song Yanqing, she was very direct, but Song Yanqing chuckled. Let me know when the results are out. I'm meeting with the He early family, so I can't come over today. Xiao Jin, okay. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Fei came up and asked, Who was it? Xiao Jin glanced at her. Song Yanqing. Xiao Fei was a little confused. Oh, he looks for you often. Xiao Jin, not really. He just asked me why I did a paternity test with the Ji family. I didn't tell him about this. Xiao Fei was stunned. Why do you tell him everything? No. Xiao Jin thought for a moment. There's no need to tell him about such a small matter. He asked me because he knew. How is this a small matter? Xiao Fei raised her voice a little. She was afraid of attracting attention and said, This is a big matter. Jin, the Ji family is not like our family. I heard that many of their children are going to marry. If the Ji family forces you to marry someone you don't like in the future, you can ask Lord Song for help. Xiao Jin was a little helpless. I told you to watch less TV. Even if there's a marriage, are you going to watch the Ji family arrange it for me? Am I your daughter or their daughter? Even if it's true, I won't go back to the Ji family. Aren't you the one who raised me? Xiao Fei was stunned. Yes, thinking of this, she was a little happy. Then Mom will definitely not let this happen. While they were talking, a tall figure came out of the hospital elevator. He was wearing a suit with a cold and gloomy aura. His handsome appearance attracted the attention of many nurses in the hospital. When he walked over and saw Xiao Jin, he stopped and said with a playful tone, "Xiao Jin." Xiao Fei was dazed for a moment before he recognized that this was the young master of the Ji family, Ji Sikai. Ji Sikai also looked at Xiao Fei and said politely, "Auntie." Xiao Fei hurriedly said, "Ah, Sky, what are you doing here?" Ji Sikai said, "I came to see if Xiao Jin is my cousin." Xiao Fei, can't you communicate properly if you're so direct? His gaze swept across the two of them. The results are out. Xiao Fei shook his head. No, so she might not be my cousin. Ji Sikai retracted his gaze, his smile somewhat gloomy. I hope not either. Xiao Fei immediately felt a little awkward. Whether or not she was his cousin, Ji Sikai's words seemed a little, was he targeting Xiao Jin too much? Xiao Jin glanced at Ji Sikai and didn't want to talk to him. At this moment, the doctor came over with the test report. Xiao Fei heard the sound and immediately pulled Xiao Jin over, only to hear the doctor announce the results. Xiao Jin and Ji Qiue were indeed related by blood. Ji Qiue was Xiao Jin's biological father. Hearing the news, some people were happy, some were dumbfounded, and some sighed. Ji Sikai, who was standing at the back, heard the results and his face immediately darkened. After a long while, he revealed a smile with a hint of viciousness. Chapter 390. It's really, Ji Pingan was excited, while Ji Qiue was a little confused and excited. After all, it was really proven that Xiao Jin was his biological daughter. He still felt that it was too sudden. It was like how he didn't have the concept of a daughter for so many years. Now that a daughter had popped out, how could it not be sudden? Good child, Ji Pingan was so excited that his eyes were wet. When he reached out to put his hand on her arm, she avoided him. You don't have to be so excited. This isn't a big deal. Everyone, of course this was a big deal. This was a big deal for the Ji family. Ji Pingan looked at her and said with heartache, all these years, it's been hard on you. Xiao Jin, it's not hard. Fei Fei raised me well. Xiao Fei's heart was filled with comfort when he heard that. Oh, right. I said the wrong thing. Ji Pingan quickly reacted. All these years, I have to thank you properly, Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei's smile was a little forced. Old master, you don't have to be so polite, Xiao Jin, Ji Qiue carefully called out, but Xiao Jin didn't respond. Ji Pingan and Ji Qiue weren't stupid. They sensed that Xiao Jin's attitude was cold and didn't seem to take this matter seriously. They knew that some things weren't what they thought. Ji Pingan said, today's matter was too sudden, but since Xiao Jin is my granddaughter, she naturally has to acknowledge her ancestors. Xiao Fei, thank you for all these years. Xiao Fei couldn't smile anymore. Old master, do you want to ask Xiao Jin's opinion? Xiao Jin also looked at Ji Pingan. Acknowledge her ancestors? Ji Pingan looked at her lovingly and said, since you're my Ji family's granddaughter, you should return to the Ji family. Don't worry, Grandpa will make it up to you. Xiao Jin, there's no need. I don't plan to go back. Xiao Jin's straightforward rejection made Ji Chiyue a little dissatisfied. Why? You are my daughter. Xiao Jin, the one who raised me for 20 years was Xiao Fei, not you. Ji Chiyue said. We will give the Mu family a thank you fee. His words made Musichu frown. Uncle Ji, do you think my parents are short of money? Is Xiao Jin an item to be traded? Ji Pingon reached out and slapped Ji Chiyue's head. If you don't know how to speak, then don't fart. He looked at Xiao Fei and said in a gentle tone, Xiao Fei, don't worry. That's not what I meant. I know that you raised Xiao Jin for 20 years, so you naturally have feelings for her. However, now that Xiao Jin has been proven to be the granddaughter of the Ji family, I hope that she can return to the Ji family. As for who she wants to follow in the future, it's up to her to decide. As adults, we won't force the younger generation to do anything, right? Xiao Fei felt that it made sense, although she was a little unwilling. However, it didn't seem like a big deal if Xiao Jin returned to the Ji family and acknowledged her identity. She looked at Xiao Jin, and Xiao Jin said, there's no need. You can tell anyone about this, or you can keep it to yourself. I don't want to go to the Ji family. Ji Pingon was a little hurt by her rejection. Your father is here too. I'm your biological grandfather. Don't tell me you don't even want to see your mother. Xiao Jin, no. Everyone, that was a straightforward rejection. Chapter 391. If she doesn't want to, are you going to handcuff her back? Ji Sikai walked over and looked at Ji Chiyue with a faint smile. Uncle, why don't you go home and deal with Aunt's matter? Ask her why she abandoned Xiao Jin and raised a son who isn't her own. Ji Chiyue's face paled. You can't say that. Fan Zheng is my biological son, so he can be considered her son. Ji Sikai sneered. He didn't say anything, but his attitude was obvious. Xiao Fei felt embarrassed for the Ji family. Seeing that Xiao Jin wasn't willing to go back, Ji Pingon's face darkened. We'll ask about your mother. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that Chai Yueli didn't want a divorce to protect herself, she wouldn't have mentioned Xiao Jin. If Xiao Jin wasn't willing to go back, seeing that Xiao Jin couldn't be convinced, Ji Pingon could only give up. He brought Xiao Fei and the others, as well as Ji Sikai, to have a meal together. In such a short time, the news of Xiao Jin's incident had spread. This was because whenever they came to the hospital, there would always be people who would be curious and ask around. Although the hospital had moral integrity and couldn't reveal it, they couldn't hide it from the eyes and ears of others. The news that Xiao Jin was the granddaughter of the Ji family caused a stir in the city. While eating, Xiao Jin sent a message to Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing was busy, but she still replied to Xiao Jin, indicating that he would call her when he was free in the afternoon. She didn't talk much to ordinary people, and it was even more so at the dinner table. Ji Pingon kept trying to talk to Xiao Jin, and Xiao Jin occasionally replied. Most of the time, it was Xiao Fei who explained. Halfway through the meal, Mu Chi Lian called Mu Chi Chu and howled, "Ah! You guys didn't even ask me to come along." When he woke up in the afternoon and ate lunch, he was told by his grandfather that Xiao Jin had been taken away by the Ji family. In other words, Xiao Jin's matter had already been publicized, and he hadn't even seen it firsthand. However, he was in this house. For the first time, Musilian felt that playing games until midnight was a very bad decision. He didn't even see the first scene of the gossip. Pain, shock, disbelief. Musichu went to the side to answer the phone and sneered, "You're only up now." "That's possible too." "Musilian, that's not the point. The point is, why didn't you call me?" Musichu, what's the point of calling you here? Musilian, I really want to see their reactions and expressions at that time. What do you think? Is it going to be a scene of them hugging each other and crying? Musichu, sometimes, Musilian's imagination was really on par with Xiao Fei's. Why did he think that Xiao Jin would have such an unreasonable scene? Musilian was still a little indignant. That's too hateful. Where are you now? Are you at the Ji family's house? I'll rush over now. Musichu, don't. We'll finish eating and go home soon. Xiao Jin won't go to the Ji family's house. Musilian was stunned. Ha! The Ji family doesn't want to acknowledge her. No, she doesn't want to acknowledge the Ji family. Musilian, what's Xiao Jin thinking? Of course she wants to acknowledge it. The Mu family gives her pocket money, and the Ji family also gives her pocket money. Isn't she beautiful? When she goes back, she might even make grandfather Ji's heart ache and give her a huge sum of living expenses first. Can't she give it to me? What's she thinking? So unwise. Musichu. Chapter 392. The unwise Xiao Jin treated money like dirt. Even Ji Pingon didn't know what she was thinking. Being able to return to the Ji family didn't mean that the Ji family was good, but at least there was a guarantee. Moreover, how could the Ji family's bloodline be left outside? This matter had already spread. If the Ji family didn't bring her back, others would think that the Ji family despised Xiao Jin. Although Ji Qiue was Xiao Jin's biological father, he had some opinions about Xiao Jin's refusal to listen to him. After dinner, he persuaded Xiao Jin, at least go back with Dad to see Mom, isn't it? Ji Qiue's voice was still soft and gentle, but Xiao Jin looked at him strangely when she heard it. That kind of gaze was as if Ji Qiue was talking about something incredible, but it was so clear that no one dared to look directly at him. It was as if he had nowhere to hide in front of Xiao Jin. Ji Qiue was immediately terrified. He didn't know why, but he was particularly afraid of this biological daughter who he had just learned about. Seeing Xiao Jin like this, Ji Pingon knew that it was hopeless to persuade her to go back now. He seemed to be comforting himself. Maybe Jin just found out about these things and found it hard to accept. I can understand. If you don't want to go back for the time being, I won't force you. But Grandpa has a wish. Can you call me Grandpa now? He looked at Xiao Jin expectantly. This was an old man's wish. Most people couldn't bear to refuse. Xiao Jin replied coldly, no, I'm not used to it. I can't say it. Even if she really had the self-awareness of a junior, the first person she should call Grandpa was Old Master Mu. Old Master Mu didn't mean what he said. After so many years of tormenting Xiao Fei, he didn't blame her too much. After so many years, their families had reconciled. Now that they lived together, Xiao Jin knew some of his temperament. Although he wasn't her biological grandfather, he was closer to her in terms of relationship. Ji Pingon was her biological grandfather, but he had nothing to do with her. Her answer was actually polite, at least because she wasn't used to it. Although Ji Pingon was disappointed, he could only sigh. I see. Ji Qiue couldn't help but ask, why can't you even call him Grandpa? When she saw Ji Pingon, she usually called him Old Master Ji. It didn't sound strange, but compared to Mu Chi Chu and the others who called him Grandpa Ji, there was a big difference. This was also what was strange about Xiao Jin. Ji Sikai also laughed sarcastically at the side. You're not even willing to call me grandfather? Is it so precious? Xiao Fei's father, she doesn't like that. Hearing that Xiao Jin didn't even call him Mu Xiangshan, Ji Pingon felt much better. Xiao Fei's face froze. Xiao Jin didn't spoil him. She said coldly, how Fei Fei teaches her child is none of your business. Ji Qiue was embarrassed by her direct rebuke. His face turned red. I am your biological father. Qiao Jin, oh. And then. Ji Qiue was so angry that smoke came out of his head. It was fine if she didn't want to return to the Ji family, but her temper was definitely spoiled by the Mu family. The Ji family wouldn't spoil their child like that. Chapter 393. Forget it, forget it. Ji Pingan had long known that Qiao Jin didn't call him old master. She even called Qiao Fei Fei Fei. Thinking of this, he felt much better. He had previously said that foreign education was the same. It didn't matter if the child didn't call him old master. It was a little regretful now, but it didn't matter. It was the first time Ji Sikai knew about this. He looked Xiao Jin up and down and thought of the last time. No wonder she didn't even call him brother. The corners of his lips curled up. He didn't know where he learned this strange temper from. Ji Pingan wanted to talk about the old days with Xiao Jin, but found that Xiao Jin's attitude was cold. He knew that it would be the same even if he continued to talk. There was still a long way to go. At least he could go to the Mu family to see her. Moreover, the family really had to deal with Chai Yueli's matter first. Thinking of this, Ji Pingan couldn't help but glare at Ji Qiue. It was all because of this good-for-nothing thing. Ji Qiue had been bullied by Qiao Jin, and now he was being scolded by his father. He was inhumane. When he went back, he still had to face Chai Yueli, who cried and threatened to hang herself, and his son who didn't know how to face him. He felt that the world was really unfair to him. Qiao Fei, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Xiao Jin. If you need anything in the future, just ask. Ji Pingan faced Qiao Fei and earnestly entrusted him. Now that Qiao Fei knew that Xiao Jin really didn't want to go back, he was much happier. At the same time, he felt sad for old Master Ji. Although his parents were good for nothing, the old man was not wrong. He just wanted his granddaughter to go back. If his granddaughter didn't go back, he wouldn't force her. He was already very open-minded. Qiao Fei was very respectful to Ji Pingan. Uncle Ji, don't worry. Jean is fine in our family. You can come to see Jean more often in the future. I can also bring Jean to see you. She still knew how to do some things, which comforted Ji Pingan a little. Qiao Jin didn't want to go back, but she didn't object to Qiao Fei's proposal to bring her to see Ji Pingan. All right. Ji Pingan glanced at Qiao Jin reluctantly, but he was still relieved in his heart. Fortunately, although her temper was a little strange, she looked outstanding. She was his granddaughter, and this was the most comforting point. At this moment, Ji Sikai took the initiative to say, "Third Grandpa, I'll send you back." Ji Pingan didn't object and nodded. From the beginning to the end, Ji Qiue was like an invisible person except for a few words. No one was willing to talk to him, and he was full of anger. After they parted ways, Qiao Fei brought Qiao Jin and the others back. He got into the car and complained to Ji Pingan, "Dad, look at her. What has the Mu family taught her? You don't even want to greet me. Then what's wrong?" Ji Pingan spoke up for Qiao Jin, "She just didn't want to call anyone. Wasn't she very polite to us? She didn't point at your nose and scold you, did she? If I had a father like you, I wouldn't acknowledge you either." Ji Qiue, "Besides, how did you make her think it through?" Ji Pingan sneered, "Your wife abandoned her own daughter for a son. She was raised by the Mu family for so many years. It's not your turn to criticize her. Why don't you go back and ask your good wife what's going on with Qiao Jin and Ji Fanjing? If she abandoned her own daughter in order to marry into the Ji family, then she's really a bad person. Even if Qiao Jin acknowledges her, you must still divorce her. Ji Qiue was stunned. He opened his mouth but didn't dare to refute. Chapter 394. Ji Sikai, who was driving in the front row, glanced at Ji Pingon through the rearview mirror. "Grandpa Ji, you don't have to be so angry." He chuckled. "Go back and ask Auntie. Maybe it's a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? Ji Pingon didn't believe it. She didn't even know if she gave birth to a daughter or a son back then. Most importantly, when the matter was exposed, Chai Yueli's expression clearly showed that she already knew that Ji Fanjing wasn't her biological son. All these years, she hadn't thought of looking for Qiao Jin. It was only when she heard Ji Qiue say that he was going to get a divorce that she couldn't hold it in anymore. Although Qiao Jin was doing well, what if Qiao Jin wasn't adopted by Qiao Fei, but by someone else? More seriously, he might grow up without anyone to rely on. If he wasn't lucky, perhaps, thinking of this, Ji Pingon's heart was not at ease. He simply did not dare to imagine such a vicious and despicable woman. Ji Sikai said, "Second uncle, maybe you just don't know." Although Ji Qiue was Ji Pingon's eldest son, he was the second son in the entire family and was younger than Ji Sikai's father, so Ji Sikai called him uncle. "You're a fool even if you don't know. You were played by a woman. I think you'll fall into the hands of a woman in this life too." Ji Pingon was exasperated. He had always been a good-tempered person, but now he kept scolding Ji Qiue. This matter had really angered him. Ji Qiue couldn't raise his head from the scolding, especially in front of Ji Sikai. He couldn't even retort. This matter was indeed his fault. He had been kept in the dark by Chai Yueli for so long that his son and daughter didn't know. He was actually a failure as a father. Ji Pingon shook his head. Back then, he had seen that Ji Qiue was a good-for-nothing, so he had decided to merge with the Ji family early. Otherwise, if his career was handed over to Ji Qiue, he would also be a prodigal. When Qiao Jin returned home, he saw the excited Muzilian. "How was it?" Qiao Fei was confused by the question. "What do you mean?" Muzilian was still excited. "Is Qiao Jin going back to the Ji family?" Qiao Fei, "Of course not. Jin is still living with us." Muzilian immediately lamented, "I knew she was a fool. If it were me, I would definitely go back and ask for pocket money from both sides. Every time I go to the Ji family's house, I get a big red packet. Isn't that great?" Qiao Fei poked his forehead angrily. "Do you think your sister is as greedy as you? Don't you hate the fact that it wasn't you who did this? If it was you, you would definitely have rushed back to the Ji family right now, right?" Muzilian was poked by her and shouted, "Mom, you're wrong. I only suggested this to Qiao Jin because I know I don't have the chance. I didn't expect that he wouldn't be tempted by double his allowance. What a ruthless person. Qiao Fei, you only have money in your eyes your whole life. You only have money in your eyes. We've mistreated you, haven't we?" Muzilian immediately wailed. "You still have the cheek to say that. Dad said he would deduct my pocket money, and he really did. As a mother, you don't even give me some support. I don't even dare to go out blindly now. I'm afraid that my friends won't be able to pay for my treat. My credit card is going to explode." Qiao Fei picked up a feather duster. "If you sold the cars in your garage, you could have lived a luxurious life for a few months. If you didn't buy so many cars, would you still be where you are today?" Chapter 395. The Mu family was really generous to their children. Although Mu Xiangshan was strict with Mu Jinming in the past, he had never mistreated him financially. Their family's creed was that money was earned to be spent. The two sons of the Mu family were treated very well. Other than pocket money, they also bought cars and branded watches with the family's money. The Mu family was not as rich as the Song family and the Ji family, but it was also a new rich family. Muzilian had dozens of limited edition sports cars. He did not wear branded jewelry, but he had a lot of them. This was the result of the Mu family restraining him. Otherwise, he would not be so arrogant among the young masters in the capital. Musichu was much more self-disciplined. He was not interested in sports cars and the like. The few cars his grandfather and father gave him for his birthday were usually driven by Muzilian to show off. He had used his own money to invest in stock funds and all kinds of investments. The children of rich families did not only know how to squander. With resources, they would use all kinds of excellent congenital conditions to create more wealth. Of course, there was nothing they could do if they met someone who was really useless. However, for an outstanding family like the Mu family that had produced Musichu and Muzilian, other than natural disasters, they would only get richer. When Qiao Fei raised Qiao Jin in the past, when they just returned to the capital, Qiao Fei went back first. Mu Jinming did not have any relationship with this adopted daughter, but he did not mistreat her either. It was obvious that he bought a house casually. Qiao Fei usually gave her pocket money. Although it was not as much as the Mu brothers, it was really much more than ordinary people. Now that she was back in the Mu family, her pocket money was already on par with the twins. She just did not use it. Therefore, Qiao Jin's karma had nothing to do with the Mu family couple. This was because the two of them did not treat her well at all. Naturally, there was no karma involved. Musichu and his brother had a little karma. It was probably because of this incident when Musichu brought Qiao Jin to see Fingfei He. Now, with the changes of time, it had disappeared. Qiao Fei was such a gentle, naive, and sweet woman. She would only panic in front of Muzilian. Now that he heard his son's nonsensical words, he could only say resentfully, "Wait for your father to come back and deal with you." Muzilian said indignantly, "There's no justice in this world." Mu Xiangshan came out with a thermos flask in his hand. "Is the matter settled?" Qiao Fei threw the feather duster away and restrained himself a little. "It's done." When Mu Xiangshan saw that Qiao Jin was still here, he knew that she hadn't returned to the Ji clan. He couldn't help but sigh, this matter has nothing to do with Ping'an. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Ji Qiue and his wife. Qiao Fei muttered, "I know. Old Master Ji is the same. He's already so old, yet he still encountered such a thing." Mu Xiangshan continued to ask, "What did you discuss? What will you say in the future?" Qiao Fei, "Just like that. Sometimes, old Master Ji comes to visit, and sometimes, I bring Qiao Jin to visit him." Mu Xiangshan nodded and waved his hand. "All right, it's not like our family can't afford to raise another mouth." Muzilian asked the key question. "Now that Qiao Jin is considered a member of the Ji clan, we're also relatives of the Ji clan. In the future, when we go to the Ji clan, will they give us red packets?" Everyone, Qiao Fei couldn't care less about Mu Xiangshan's presence. He picked up the feather duster and chased after Mu Qi, "Aren't you ashamed?" Mu Xiangshan added leisurely, "Just beat him to death. What's the point of raising him?" Chapter 396. Qiao Jin went upstairs to rest in the afternoon. When Mu Jinming came back in the evening, they went down for dinner and discussed this matter at the dinner table. Everyone didn't have any opinions about Qiao Jin not going back. Qiao Fei couldn't wait for her to stay by his side. In other words, other than the Ji family knowing that she was their biological daughter, everything else was the same. When she returned to the room, Song Yanqing called after he was done with his work. How was the matter today? I saw on your WeChat that you wouldn't go back to the Ji family, right? He seemed to be walking. His voice was as quiet and deep as usual, with a unique texture that was as pleasant as music. Xiao Ji nodded and flipped through the ancient book left behind by the Zhongli family. I didn't plan to go back in the first place. The Ji family has a lot of things to do. She didn't need to calculate. She could tell that the Ji family was troublesome. It was better to stay in the Mu family. Fei Fei and the others were good people. Song Yanqing chuckled. Your background is more complicated than I thought. Xiao Jin said, it's not complicated. I was just abandoned. She used the word abandoned to state a fact. Song Yanqing was silent for a few seconds. He sighed and said, are you really not sad? Not at all. Don't guard against me. You can tell me if you have something to say. You can also tell me if you're unhappy. Of course not. Xiao Jin's tone was very calm. To me, they're just another layer of blood relations. In essence, they're still strangers. So I don't feel anything at all. Sad was a word that was very far away from her. That's good. Song Yanqing saw that she was really not sad and said happily, I'll treat you to a meal tomorrow. Do you have time? Xiao Jin, yes. Every time he invited her, she would always obediently say that she had time and wouldn't refuse. This made him very happy. Okay. His voice was as gentle as water. Have a good rest. See you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Jin was very straightforward. She flipped through the ancient book and saw a few places. She narrowed her eyes slightly. Calculating the time, her second backlash was about to arrive. She had already smelled a little danger. Of course, she could not just stay in the Mu family. She changed her clothes and put on her shoes, ready to go out. This time, only Mu Xiangshan was downstairs, watching the news on TV in the living room. When he saw Xiao Jin, he asked naturally, where are you going? Xiao Jin, disco. Mu Xiangshan, she didn't look like someone who liked to dance. Muzilian watched her leave and was so stunned that he forgot what he was going to say to stop her. He just thought that it was not good for a girl to go out in the middle of the night, and it was even something as indecent as disco dancing. Mu Xiangshan felt that it was Muzilian's fault. He went to knock on Xiao Fei's door and successfully put the blame on Muzilian. Muzilian, who was still playing games in the room, was beaten up by Xiao Fei for no reason. Xiao Fei called Xiao Jin, Jin, where are you going in the middle of the night? Disco dancing. I'll be back in a while. Fei Fei, don't worry. I'll be back soon. Xiao Fei. Are you so impudent now? Muzilian held his face and cried, what did I do wrong? She went to the disco, not me. Why did I get beaten up? Do you hear what she said?